Back to restarting this topic and send my apologies to folks. And while I wait for some folks to come in, let me do the reopening here. Let me do this. Yes, something else there, huh? Well, hey, War Maverick, for the moment. Oh, and Drian, as I say, for the moment, it looks like it's just the two of us. The red ants have struck again. Ladies and gentlemen, for those who have put up with this nonsense with me for a few weeks now, my apologies. That's hopefully going to end because the PC with all the power and the 26-inch screen and more processing power and a better network card will be coming into my studio this evening. I'm tired of this nonsense. I'm sure you are too. My apologies. I've been very fortunate that when I've been interviewing people, knock on wood, that I haven't been losing my stream when I've been interviewing people. Hey, Hank, thanks for coming back. For those coming back in, I see it's at least 9 people of the 40 or so that we had. Yeah, I apologize for that. As I said, I'll be moving my PC in here this evening to the studio, and then hopefully we won't be dealing with this nonsense anymore. It's something to do with this laptop. I'm not sure why that's way. It's very powerful. It has a lot of RAM, has a lot of processors, has independent video card processor, which is unusual for a laptop. But it is running on Microsoft, and so therein may lie the problem. But for those who are just coming back in the stream, again, my apologies. This is Chris. I was reading from an article, some points made by the BBC in an article that came out today talking about coronavirus in South Africa, 8 lessons for the rest of the continent. And I read through this, and I agree with some of these points here. Hey, Lizan. Yeah. So the first point they make is keep the tea rooms clean. And what they mean by that is that hygiene is far more important than spending money on expensive ventilators and medical equipment. So on acquiring, excuse me, the evidence from South African hospitals already grappling with the virus points to the need for vastly improved hygiene protocols. Well, there you go. That's the bottom line. Yep, the hygiene is a big issue. Now, number two, fast test or no test. Yeah, after a promising start, South Africa is now struggling woefully with its testing. A huge backlog. Yeah, in fact, the government admitted that they had 96,400 backlog COVID-19 tests. Not people waiting to take COVID-19. These are actually tests completed, and they're waiting to process them to put them before the reaction agents to see if, in fact, hey, Vernon, to see if, in fact, they actually are positive. They can't even test, they can't even run the test samples that they have because they're woefully inadequate. Now, the excuse from the Ministry of Health was that there's a shortage of tests. Well, no, there's not a shortage of tests. You got 96,000 waiting to be confirmed. There may be a shortage of reaction material, maybe a shortage of the resources to complete the test. That may be the problem, but that's not what the Ministry of Health said. So yeah, huge backlog. So thousands and thousands of cases of people waiting to find out what's going on. Now, this is especially bad when you consider the fact that the government, when people who are South African nationals are being repatriated right now, that what is happening is that they're required to go through quarantine. Well, if you have to wait 12 days for quarantine, anyway, I'm not going to, that's enough of that. Okay, so Vernon says, did anyone see the president where he called the economy racist? Yes, did see that video. He called the economy racist and colonial. Last time I checked, the economy has been under the control of the African National Congress since 1994 at the national level, unimpeded control, and for much of that time, constitutional authority to amend the Constitution without any coalition votes whatsoever. They were the two-thirds majority for much of that time in government. At the national level, in the provincial level, they've controlled every province save Western Province, and they even controlled it briefly. And then at the metropolitan level, until 2016, they controlled virtually every major metropolitan in the country, but that changed briefly in 2016. So yeah, that's exactly what Ramaphosa said. The world is not paying attention to what's going on in South Africa, and it needs to. So let's see what can happen. Gosh, I lost a lot of people. I hope they can come back. It's a shame. Then the other thing here that they said is it's not old age, it's obesity. Much has been made of the fact that Africa has an unusually young population. Indeed, that may help mitigate the impact of the virus in Africa. But the evidence from several South African hospitals already suggests that alarmingly high levels of obesity, along with hypertension and diabetes in younger COVID-19 patients, are linked to many fatalities. For those who caught Ronaldo Hose earlier, that's exact. Hey, PP. Um, Ants, hi, my favorite kernel off the kernel. I guess that's just because you like a streetwise, eh, Ants? I don't care for KFC, but I do like the Zinger Burger. That's some good stuff there. Yeah, I eat those whenever I'm in Zimbabwe and South Africa, Botswana, the Zinger Burgers. Even though when you go to a KFC in Botswana with three people in front of you in line, you have to wait a half an hour because the service is abysmal. Yes, I did say that about Botswana. I don't say many bad things about Botswana, but when it comes to KFC, they hire the people with the least ability to provide customer service. It's as if they intentionally go out of their way to hire those people. Anyway, obesity, yeah. So people with underlying conditions, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we've been saying all along. This isn't new. And this could be a problem in Africa. Major issues in the more developed economies in Africa are the same sort of social and medical ills that we see in the developed West. And I warned people this 20 years ago and have been preaching it ever since for Africans who seem to think that they are oblivious, or not oblivious, that they are exempt from the Western woes. Well, when your income levels go up and people aren't starving and people aren't hungry, and they start indulging themselves and becoming less active, you start seeing type 2 diabetes, adult onset asthma, which is not from lifestyle, it's caused by environmental factors most likely. But you start seeing type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and high blood pressure, all three of which are major comorbidity factors. For those watching Ronaldo Ho's stream a short while ago, about an hour or so ago, a little over an hour ago, Helen Zilla was on there. She made the same point. I've been making this point since this thing started because that is what we're seeing. We need a much wiser approach to how we deal with this virus and protecting those who are most at risk. Instead, we're simply freezing everyone, and that's not really helping anyone. When your economy collapses and implodes and livelihoods are destroyed and you can't feed your family, how is that going to help the people in your family who are vulnerable? Everyone's starving now. Okay, so what is your agenda for your channel? Okay, St. Ledger, I'll answer that question. For my channel, in case you don't know, this channel is all about encouraging people in North America in particular to become aware of and to invest in Africa for the mutual benefit of Africans and for those of us in North America. Africa has a population of 1.3 billion people at present. By 2050, regardless of what you and I do with birth rates and birth control and family planning, the population will increase to 2.3 to 2.5 billion people by 2050. Today, Africa has a small consumer class, and that consumer class will be at least 1.3 billion people by the year 2050. That's 4 times the current size of the United States. 4 times. Now, this is the world's wealthiest and most lucrative consumer market by far. Chinese may have 1.5 billion people, but they don't have a consumer market that even comes close to rivaling what the United States has. So if you want to make money, this is where you invest, among other places, the big money. If you want to be a global power, economics is what power rests upon. And the US will become a second-rate global power, as will Canada, unless we pay attention to what's happening in Africa and get involved now. Not in 2030, not in 2035 or 2045, it's too late. So I'm trying to open the eyes of people in Africa, in the US, in Europe, and Africa. Also for Africans, a lot of the things that Africans think they know about America are simply untrue. And part of my mission is to help share what the truth is. You'll find videos on my website talking about debunking the myth of US military bases in Africa. That's one of them I got on there. But I'm also trying to increase investment. So that's what my channel is about, St. Ledger. It's about more than that, but that's the focus and the reason for it. The channel grew out of my consultancy business that I founded just before I left active service. And then my intent was to provide business strategic advisory services through Indaba Africa Group. And so the channel is supposed to support that and be an outlet for it. But what it has turned into because of COVID-19 is my empathy for millions of people who are trapped like prisoners in their homes. I've decided to take my channel, which I haven't monetized yet, but that may be coming very soon. Don't worry that folks who watch me, most things will still be free on the channel. Not to worry about that, but just monetizing for commercials and then certain videos which are for business would, and those who want to pay for advertisements, I may do that. But the channel has become, in my view, more of a public service for people who are trapped in their homes, not wanting people to not have an outlet for something to discuss, to vent their frustrations, to talk about things to learn. And also for me, I've made far greater business connections through my LinkedIn account, which I've been active in for many years, and now through the YouTube channel by people reaching out to me and sharing things and becoming better informed about some things where I'm trying to get access to. So yeah, that's what the channel's about. Right now, it's mostly a public service. I'm trying to help people. That's my goal. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing with it. So I hope that's helpful, St. Ledger. I also, for St. Ledger's benefit, I promote businesses in South Africa in particular because of the draconian and illegitimate lockdown measures that the ANC has been taking and its oppression of all South African people. I happily provide advertisements for people to appear on my channel. And so here's one example of that. This is Talon Bezuidenhout, who is the owner of Impulse Graphics in South Africa. And what Impulse does is they do the opening and closing credits that you see for my channel. That was done for me free of charge. And as a courtesy, I'm paying it back just to let people know about that. So if you have graphic image needs and design needs, turn to Impulse Graphics. Really good stuff. I can show you an example over here real quick. So that's just one example of the sort of things that they do. And I'm providing this advertising free on my channel. As my channel grows, more people are exposed to this. So it's just a courtesy. This is Shink Art. This is a Bloemfontein-based business that has a photography studio, which they do wedding photos, they do family portraits, and they do amazing characters. Yeah, okay, I'm boasting a little bit there. I didn't draw that. That other than the fact that my head is so oversized, which is what you do in a character, I love that. That's actually me at the Rugby World Cup in 2019, and I was dressed exactly that way, wearing my flag and my jersey and the Japanese headband. Yeah, so these guys do amazing things. They've also done characters of Sia Khaleesi, the Springboks captain, and Joe Black. If you're into Joe Black's music, uh, bring you hope terug. Yeah, yeah, bring back hope. That's right. Fantastic. Bring you hope terug. Yeah. So anyway, they've done Joe Black. That's Joe Black with the beard, not without the beard. So anyway, so that's some of what I'm trying to do here as well. So if you have a business and you would like me to do some free advertising for you, feel free to reach out to me. You can find my contact information by going to the About tab on my YouTube channel. And if I have some sort of relationship with you, I'll be happy to do that. And it all started because I had an interest in an amazing artist who is from Namibia, but is an Afrikaans speaker. And I reached out to her manager a couple months ago and said, hey, she's amazing. She's fantastic. I really love the music. Just want to let you know, as someone that understands Afrikaans, even though I'm an American, I love Afrikaans music, amongst others. I listen to German, French music, and lots of American music of all genre. But I said, I really love her music, and it's just amazing. As a consequence of that, what happened, for those of you who follow my channel, you've seen that what we had here on the 8th of May was a live album debut by Giselle, a Namibian singer from Grootfontein, who also grew up in the Northern Cape for a bit. And so she has a bit of a funny accent, a lot of people in South Africa say, when it comes to her Afrikaans. But she is a folk music singer, a country music singer in both English and Afrikaans. And she is also a pop musician, and she's fantastic, a fantastic performer. She did a live stream of her album debut, Für uns Mensa, which was fantastic on my channel. You can go watch it on my past live streams. I'm endlessly promoting Giselle. I have permission from her and her manager to use her music without copyright restraints here. And I do use it occasionally in my videos. They're putting together some production for me to give me some opening and closing stuff with her music. I'm going to be a little selective about it though, because my channel is not simply about South Africa, and the songs of hers I love the most are like Suidwest, which is about Namibia, and then Suid-Afrika, which is a beautiful anthem about South Africa. Just, really good stuff. That's fine for South Africa. When I do a South Africa video, I'll use something like that. But I need something that covers more than just South Africa. So anyway, so I'm happy to help folks out that way. That's what I'm trying to do. So I think that St. Ledger responded. Thank you, Chris. I shall refrain from. I'm humbled by your response. Well, you don't need to be humble, Ledger. I just hope that you understand me a little bit better. I'm trying to help folks out here and also build a wider community, that sort of thing. So there you go. Let's see. Let me get back. What have I missed here? Vernon says, today the business day proposing prescribe assets looks like our pensions are gone. SA rising like a phoenix. Yeah, are you talking about Cyril Ramaphosa? I think Cyril Ramaphosa needs a urinalysis because clearly he's been zolling. South African Airlines rising like a phoenix. These people are living in denial, and they don't care. They don't realize it's not a river in Egypt. It's actually a mental condition, denial. Lizan says, Chris, our ICU is making preparations for our own reusable waterproof gowns to wear as a government sent a document and addendum stating they can't supply gowns. So because they can't supply personal protective equipment, they've taken out of your standard operating procedure as if that makes it okay. Yeah, that sounds like the ANC. They actually had competent people working in parts of their government for a number of years at the outset. Where are those people at now? All right. So Hank says EFF rather die with your boots on. Vernon, EFF and Malaman never starve as they would never tell anyone to stay at home. Yeah. Um, Graham Cross, morning. How are you? I'm fine. Graham, morning. You must be in New Zealand, or is it? It's not that late in South Africa, or Japan or somewhere like that. Um, Enter relax. Hi, Chris. Try and get Big Daddy Liberty on. Guys, thank you for asking me to get Big Daddy Liberty. I would love to get Big Daddy Liberty on my show. But once again, I've written to the gentleman twice, actually three times, and I've yet to hear from him. So I'm not going to go begging for him. I would like to be on the channel with him. I'm happy to go on his show, or he can come on mine if you enjoy my interviewing technique. But if you want that to happen, you guys need to go to that channel. Okay, I don't like how my hair looks. It's driving me nuts. You guys need to go to that channel. How about this? Let me put this hat on. You guys like this hat? There you go. There you go. Keep America great. There you go. That's right. America. That's right. There you go. 45. 45. Stars and stripes. Trump 2020. And those of you who've seen this before know this, but guess what? This cap is made in America. Good luck finding stuff like that these days. Anyway, yeah, I would love to do the Big Daddy Liberty, either be on his show or have him come on my show, but I need for folks to go. God bless it. Here's that backwards. You need to go tell him that. Wow, that's even worse. It's getting worse here by the moment. The hair. You got to go tell him, let him know about me because he hasn't responded to my mail, and I don't attribute any malfeasance or dislike or something like that. I just think it's a question. The guy's really busy, and he just needs to get around to his mail. So I don't know how to reach out to him. Anyway, but I'm happy to do that if folks want to make that happen. Enter relax. He is. Yeah, I did. Oh, thanks, Lizan. Okay. Lucy, hi, good to see you. What did you miss? Well, you missed the red ants cut my stream again, and I'm praying, ich drücke die Daumen, cross my fingers we say in English, but drücke die Daumen in German, die Daumen. I'm hoping that when I move my PC into the studio that I won't have this disruption. I got cut off yesterday at the first 6 minutes for the live stream of the NASA SpaceX launch, but then we came back, we were able to stay on the whole time after that, which is great, until I got a copyright block from National Geographic for claiming I used their content. Don't know how. I wasn't on National Geographic channel. I was using the NASA feed, which is in the public domain. But anyway, that's my problem, not you guys. And then occasionally this happens where I get cut off. It has something to do with the processor or the network card on this device, and I'm hot full of this device, even though it's a relatively new one. So anyway, hopefully I can solve that. Let's see, Joe. Yeah, I know Joe had him on. I went and watched it. Joe, so I told Joe. Thanks, Paulie, but I have told Joe, keep the hat on. Keep the Trump hat on. Okay, maybe that'll fix my hair a little better. There we go. All right, there we go. How's that? It's like a trucker hat, man. That's what it looks like. There you go. My eyes are not visible now. There we go. By the way, I left a little tag on there because it has a code on it. What do you make of all the protests happening to us? Graham, I'll talk about that again in just a second. Lizanne says, when are you getting a haircut? I don't think you're going for a crazy professor look. No, not going for the crazy professor look. I will get a haircut when the barber shops reopen, or at least a trim or something. It is kind of nice, after 36 years in the Army, my hair being close to my scalp. It's kind of cool to have, grown down in the back here. But yeah, this is a bit out of control, and it gets too much to keep it under control and puts goop in it so that it stays in one place. So I will get a haircut. Now the question is, does the Pete Retief Father Christmas Paul Kruger beard go away? I thought about cutting off a couple times now that it's satisfied its purpose, but a number of people seem to like it, and so I'm not sure what's going to happen. So we'll see. Sorry, I got to take the hat off. Let's see what else. Oh, bite your ankles, you're back. Yeah, well, we all got cut off. The red ants were outside my house, tearing apart my cable connection. PP loves the Trump hat. Excellent. Vernon, that launch in Falcon 9 was amazing, especially the reentry of the rockets and how they still, yeah, it is. Isn't that amazing? I mean, it's a private company that came up with that concept and made it happen. I mean, the Soviet Union and Japan and the US and the European Union have been launching rockets into space for decades, and none of those governments ever came with that solution. It took a private enterprise to come up with the concept of landing a rocket back on the ground and reusing it. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant stuff. Yep, Pete Retief. Yeah, I think it's starting to look like Pete Retief, but I don't want to meet Pete Retief's fate. I don't need Dingani betraying me and then having me slaughtered after I watch all of my crew die in front of me. Love the beard. Well, thank you, Ludwig. Let's see, Lucy. It was a great day, ladies and gentlemen. It was a fantastic time to be a human being and to be an American. I was quite proud of it. Those of you who watched my stream, I was a bit choked up, but that was genuine emotion. I hope you guys enjoyed not my tears, but you enjoyed the stream. It was a lot of fun sharing that with you guys. 100 or so people on my stream watching the launch. The Red Ants weren't able to cut the connection, so we enjoyed the entire launch. And I went silent about 3 minutes before the launch and then didn't start talking again until about 15 minutes after launch once they were already into orbit. Amazing stuff. So they should be just now docking, or within the last few minutes or so, docking with the International Space Station. That was, oh, no, excuse me. They already docked with the International Space Station. So it was 6 hours ago. Sorry, I got the South African time in my head. It was actually this morning here. Yeah, so they already docked with the International Space Station hours ago. What I meant to say is that someone asked me to go on and stream that, but after finding the copyright block, I didn't want to mess around with it. But more importantly, I knew that it would drag on for a long time. And if you did watch the docking earlier, I think Yanni van der Veld saw it. It took a long time. It just tends to do that. It's not as exciting as the launch and then getting into orbit and watching the rocket separate and even watching the rocket re-land, the Falcon 9 coming back, just amazing. So that stuff's exciting. But I will bring updates about the International Space Station mission, the Demo 2 mission, and the Crew Dragon capsule as they come back to Earth. But anyway, so that's kind of where we're at, folks. So good stuff. Oh, Lone Wolf is growing a beard. Cool. Congrats to Bob and Doug for reaching the ISS. By the way, Bob and Doug. So, did anyone think about this? If you're any Americans out there, when I heard Bob and Doug and I was reading that, I'm thinking, Bob and Doug McKenzie? Hey, who's your take off to the Great White North, eh? That's a famous Saturday Night Live skit that was from way back in the day. Bob and Doug McKenzie. Anyway, so it was kind of funny. The one that was one promise of Trump done. He really reignited American space, gave heavy lift capacity. Yes, he did. And in fact, in the videos I've done about the launch, I did a thank you video last night that's on my channel. It's a short one, about a minute and a half, minute 43 seconds, in which I thank Elon Musk, SpaceX, NASA, and Donald Trump for getting us back. One of the frustrations I had under the Obama administration is that Obama was satisfied with us just sending unmanned probes around space. And while that's important for space exploration, particularly since there's a lot of places humans can't go yet, and we get things like the New Horizons. Nothing to do with the Obama administration, that long predated them, but the New Horizons mission, that's amazing. But getting back to the moon, establishing a base on the moon, and then getting onto Mars, those are critically important aspects of space travel that were being neglected in favor of unmanned probes. Now we have both focuses on the table, so it's good to see. Trump brought that vision back, and within his first term in office, we see it actually taking place. So there you go. Doc Breaker says, oh my soul, Bob and Doug, Great White North. Excellent. Yeah, exactly. You know, hey, Ozer, take off. Exactly. That's what I was thinking when I was sitting here when I was describing who the astronauts were during the stream. Like, so it's Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley. So Bob and Doug, and I had to pause for a second. It just dawned on me that the Mackenzies, if you know that skit from a long time ago. So Hank watched the docking and it was awesome. Well, thanks. The beard's got to go. Okay. I want to see if you have weak or strong skin. Well, I have a dimple right here. Yeah, I have a dimple like Kirk Douglas. Yep. Which is a genetic trait, by the way, for those who don't know it. That was one. Okay. Wearing a beard is the beard earned. Yeah. Yeah, yours gets caught in your vape device. Well, mine gets food on it. I gotta go check my beard after I eat it all the time. You don't even realize I'm not that sloppy without the beard. So how did I suddenly get that sloppy with the beard? You gotta wonder about that one. Watching Space Force on Netflix with Steve Carell. Okay. Well, Vernon, thanks for tuning in. I see you're taking off. Good to be there. Let me get back to the news I was covering, ladies and gentlemen, before the Red Ants unceremoniously cut us once again. But what I was saying is that this was a BBC article in which the BBC talked about 8 lessons for the rest of the continent, for Africa, based on what South Africa's learned. And we talked about hygiene being one of them. Exposure isn't always exposure. So the busy antenatal clinic in Johannesburg recently closed down following reports that one member of staff had been exposed to a coronavirus patient. One member. 12 nurses were sent home and told to self-isolate. So now there's no care at this medical facility because of their sloppy conditions. Yeah. The move has been quietly condemned by many doctors who see it as evidence of a wider climate of unnecessary fear and overcaution among medical staff, which is in danger of crippling the country's health system and undermining its fight against the virus. Where have I heard that before? I know, I said that in January, right here in the States. But several medical workers told the journalist that tougher discipline was needed to enforce hygiene protocols among staff. Well, yeah, clean things, folks. along with better education and training about managing risk. Absolutely. But why is this just happening now? This is something that should be part of hospital conduct well in advance of this. All right, beards are dirty and unhygienic. Yes, they are, Liaison. They absolutely are. And cigarettes are bad for your health, and drinking in anything other than moderation is not good news. But guess what? People do it. Anyway, so the devil is in the details, according to the BBC article. This week, South Africa announced that religious groups could resume worship in gatherings of no more than 50 people. Yeah, but then didn't Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma tell us it was only 25 people? I think she said. The move is clearly a political concession by a government under pressure to ease lockdown restrictions, and that understands that to retain public trust over the longer term, it must show signs and give and take. Yeah, this isn't going to retain public trust in South Africa. That's not going to be enough. One option for the government might have been to bar anyone over 65 from attending a religious service. Instead, it was told religious leaders to implement. Well, I have an issue with that in the BBC. Remember, the BBC is a state-owned media outlet, so they are very much inclined to think that the state knows best. Banning people over 65? No, that wouldn't be an option. I would encourage people with underlying health conditions and those over 65 to not attend church services, but banning them? Screw you. People think you are. And then finally, winning the peace. Now, this one's interesting. And for those who support opposition parties in South Africa, South Africa's official opposition to the Democratic Alliance has been struggling to make itself heard during the lockdown. Yeah, because of biased and unwarranted reporting from organizations like ENCA and South African Broadcasting Corporation, not to mention a lack of interest from Al Jazeera and other news outlets who are normally quite vocal about what's happening in South Africa. A crisis of this magnitude inevitably pushes opposition parties to the sidelines, and one could argue they would do well to stay there. Really? Really? Well, thank you for your objective commentary, Mr. BBC, or is it Miss BBC? Let's see what idiot wrote this thing. This is written by Andrew Harding. Well, thank you, Andrew. Take your leftist government garbage and your paternalistic, pedantic rantings back to your state-owned media. Yes, I know I don't have to read the BBC, but yes, I do because I'm in the news business and I'm an analyst from the intelligence world and a consultant. So I do need to pay attention to news. So I have to read the garbage that you put out. Yeah, they would do well to stay there. Really, really, they would do well to stay there. That's what he said. Prescribing that political parties not be part of a vibrant democratic process without giving an explanation why. I know what the explanation why is, because Mr. Andrew Harding seems to think that it's more important for governments who govern without reason by undemocratically appointed bodies like the National Coronavirus Command Council have the rule of the roost and not be challenged by people when they do things that are wrong or make irrational decisions like tobacco bans. Well, thank you, Mr. Andrew Harding. Appreciate your input. Thank you very much. Sec. When the DA sought to attract attention to itself, has shown signs of flip-flopping a policy. Really? Maybe I'm missing some news, but I don't recall what the DA has been flip-flopping on. They should be playing a much longer game, looking to win the peace, not the war, said Mr. Calland, citing example of Clement Attlee, who swept the power in the UK, defeating Winston Churchill in the aftermath. Whoa, Clement Attlee didn't sweep the power because he played the long game. He swept the power because the British people were turncoats and only viewed Winston Churchill as a wartime leader, not as a peacetime leader, and they abandoned his party. That's what happened. They were tired of war, and he was a wartime leader. So once again, people drawing the wrong conclusions from history, and thank you, Mr. Harding, but no thank you. So there you go. That's some advice, which there's actually some good advice in there for the rest of the continent about how to deal with COVID-19. Anyway, back to the comments. A lot of comments have come in while I was doing that. Make sure to miss it. Well, I stray from one topic to another. Have you heard about Australians eating our small shark species like flake and chips and thus starving our great whites? No, I didn't hear about that lone wolf, but I have heard about the problem about great whites not being offshore and they're suddenly missing. And I hadn't heard what the reason behind it was. I heard a lot of supposition. But what about the Chinese and their poaching of abalone on the shores of South Africa, which continues unabated even during this? Bite Your Ankle says, no, it's not. It depends on the person. No, it's not. Oh, it's the same thing. G'day, eh? With great beard comes great power responsibility. I love it. Bismarck thought so too. Okay. Sean says, on this day in 1910, the greatest political mistake in South African history was made. The four British colonies, the Cape, Transvaal, Free State, and Natal, united to form the Union of South Africa, along with African kingdoms that were part of that region. That is correct. You're talking about the Union of South Africa Act, Sean. Yep. One RB says, hi, Chris. Public trust is gone. SAA being kept on life support, ESCOM, and other confusion when the schools reopened. Well, absolutely. That was the other thing to talk about. The Minister of Education, Miss Angie, was supposed to give a press conference today. Yeah, and I think it was something like 5 or 6 hours ago, and she didn't show up. Yeah, she was supposed to give a press conference to discuss what's happening tomorrow with the reopening schools for grades 7 and 12 across South Africa. But guess what? Now she's going to speak tomorrow at like 11 a.m. in South Africa, and that means that the students who are supposed to go to school should already be at school, but no one knows what the guidelines are because they didn't share it. There's been multiple reporting back and forth, not fake news, but just confusion as a consequence of what happened. So this came out 2 days ago. For those not paying attention, this is from Al Jazeera. They actually paid attention to South Africa here. There you go. So South African Teachers Union urges staff to defy return to work order. Well, thank you, Teachers Union. Once again, your mission in life is not to educate the youth of South Africa or of our nation here, but in fact to simply obstruct the education of the youth. Now, their argument is because there's not enough personal protective equipment. All right, I get that. But I also think that what's happening here is these people have lost their minds. No one has been in school for 2 months except for some staff who just got back recently. This virus doesn't survive for 2 months on a surface, on any surface that we know of. So what cleaning do you have to do? Now, personal protective equipment, okay, what, you're going to wear, a level 4 biohazard level safety suit in order to teach primary school students? Seriously? South African teachers unions and governing associations urged their staff on Friday to defy government order. To defy government order. Oh, okay. Well, I think they should go get arrested then, just like the poor people who were arrested for sitting on a beach in the Western Cape. Yes, defy government order to return to school next week, saying schools did not yet have personal protective equipment to keep educators and people safe. Africa's most was what? So we're supposed to have biohazard level 4 suits for 500,000 students going back to school. Africa's most industrialized state will reopen its economy on June 1st after 2 months of lockdown that deepened the recession, left millions jobless. Oh, wait, deep into recession, all right. It has destroyed South Africa's economy. Only the deep pocket colluding large private enterprises and corporations, big things like Edcon, which is in bank rescue, but will probably come out of that. But big groups like that, and then Truworths, they'll survive, and all the small businesses and medium-sized enterprise, the ones going to suffer and go out of business. So what you'll see is increased monopoly in the retail sector, in the business sector, in the mining sector, in all the sectors, in transportation. And so a handful of smaller players. You see it in clubs in Cape Town where people who own 1 or 2 bars or restaurants are struggling and their business is going to go under, or they can take an offer from someone who's got deep pockets who can afford to leave the business closed during the lockdown and have done that and bought up a bunch of bars and restaurants. And now just a handful of owners own tons of bars and restaurants in the center of Cape Town and in Johannesburg and other places. It's insane. And so that's who survives, and everyone else suffers. Lives destroyed, courtesy of the African National Congress's irrational lockdown in South Africa. Right. Whew, take a deep breath. Yeah, so I got a little bit ahead of that story. It was going to be my last story I got to, but let's see. Let's see where we, okay. Tanya Harding. What's that about? Lizanne says, I had an uncle whose beard always looked like he just finished eating a fat lamb chop, which triggered my thesis. Okay, Lizanne, that's an image I didn't want to know about. Now I'm triggered. I might go shave in 5 minutes. Jessica says, hey, Chris, what did they say about Dragon crew orbiting around the moon? Will that be on the return trip? I didn't hear that, Jessica. Maybe you heard it wrong, or maybe I missed that, but I don't. They wouldn't go around the moon. The International Space Station is in geosynchronous orbit around the Earth, so it stays in the same place. So I don't know how they get to the moon. They don't have sufficient power with the capsule to fire. They only have small rockets left on the plane for attitude adjustment and for reentry and that sort of thing. So I'm not sure what that's about. But the plan is to go back to the moon within the next 3 to 5 years. That's the Trump administration's plan. I'm traumatized by fear. Doc Baker says, board republics conceded, Union South Africa foreign, flag, destem, independent republic South Africa. Yep, all true. True analyst perspective for the next 3 months, then 6 months. Are you asking me, PPE, for my view on South Africa the next 3 months or 6 months? Please clarify that for me if that's the case. Hey, folks, welcome for tuning into the stream. There's a number of folks who've tuned in. This is Chris and my team of subscribers and viewers who have joined today for this stray voltage lockdown conversation, talking about a number of issues. And yeah, so we've already been cut off by the red ants once. Hopefully it won't happen again. If it does, then we'll just end it for the day. But thank you, all of you, for tuning in. And I really appreciate being here in Indaba, Africa. So let me get back to the questions over here. But yeah, please re-ask the question, PP, because I may have missed what you're getting at. Enter Relax says, "What's your thoughts on what's News 24 lifestyle editor Herman Elof said about white people?" I didn't catch what Herman Elof said. Can you share that with me, Enter Relax? News 24 lifestyle editor. I can only begin to guess what was said there. Jessica says unions are a cancer at this point. Well, unions have always been a cancer in my book. There was a time in which they were appropriate. I was forced to be a union member when I worked for United Parcel Service or UPS. Was Brown done for you? I worked for them when I was at university the second time as I was about to be commissioned as an officer. And in order to get the employment, I was forced to join the Teamsters Union. Now, the Teamsters Union, I was a part-time employee. They took $25 a week out of my paycheck. I was paid every week. I only made $125 or $30 every week, and they took that much money. And for that, all I got was harassment by the shop steward if I was ever hanging around the office, knocking out a few things after I punched off the clock, being told that you're off the clock, you're not allowed to do this, you're going to get fired. Why am I getting fired for working for the company? Because it violates union rules. Really? Well, thank you so much for your contribution. This is not a Sinclair Lewis. This is not the jungle. We don't have 10-year-olds, slicing up carcasses of beef here in Chicago. No, this is not that time. The time for unions, unions have a purpose, but they often go beyond their writ. And so I'm not a fan of unions. Andrew Harding, BBC. Yep. Oh, no, Tanya Harding. Yeah, okay, got it. No. Andrew Harding from BBC. The world's richest 25 billionaires have gained nearly 255 billion in the last 2 months. Well, not just that, but the companies that the governments have allowed to operate, like Walmart and Amazon, have become fabulously wealthy, while they destroyed small and medium-sized enterprises around the country. Right here, one of the largest Ford dealerships in this region is shut down. Now, that company's not going to go out of business because the owner has the resources and the capital to survive this nonsense that's taking place right here in the town I live in. But his business is forced to be closed by an irrational, lunatic, progressive conduct of our state governor, Tom Wolf, who is preventing businesses from going back to work in select counties. By the way, it's the county that the governor lives in, York County, Pennsylvania. With 450,000 residents, 4+ months of COVID-19, just 1,007 confirmed cases after all that time, and 29 fatalities. I suspect more people are dead from sticking their fingers in light sockets since that time frame. 29 fatalities. And can't even trust the data because they're attributing them to COVID-19. We don't know if that's approximate cause. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, isn't that something? But we shut down and destroy our economic livelihood over that nonsense. Yep. Yeah. So wealth is being concentrated at a rate far greater than ever. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, this is what will happen. Here's your prediction. You've heard it here, right here in Dub Africa. I'm an analyst, among other things, and I predict things. So here's the prediction. We will be hearing when COVID-19 ends that wealth disparity is a shame. It's a blot on capitalism, and the capitalist system exploits the world. No, government intrusion into the marketplace in an unwarranted fashion, like shutting down business in South Africa and here in the United States, is what causes wealth disparity, not capitalism. Capital flows where capital can make a return and where it's most efficient. It doesn't accumulate in the hands of someone simply because they have a brilliant idea. They have to make it happen. So you heard it here. We will hear capitalism blame for the uber wealthy who've become so much more wealthier, when capitalism has nothing to do with it. The fact that your business is shut down in KwaZulu-Natal or in Port Elizabeth or in the Northern Cape or out in the Rooibos, not Rooibos, in the Bosveld, in the Karoo, has nothing to do with capitalism. It has to do with ANC authoritarianism. And here in York County, Pennsylvania, the authoritarianism of the governor of this Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is what is causing businesses to fail and is allowing for the ones that are the favored few by the government to continue to operate, to amass even greater wealth and destroy livelihoods. That has nothing to do with capitalism. You heard it here first. I said it, mark the date, the 31st of May, 2020. I predict when this nonsense is cleared up, that we will be seeing capitalism attack. Just like Barack Obama blamed capitalism's failures for the 2008 financial crisis, when it had nothing to do with capitalism, everything to do with unwarranted government intrusion into the housing market and the subprime mortgage, by distorting outcomes, by trying to guarantee equality of outcomes instead of equality of opportunity. But that's what progressives and leftists like to do, ladies and gentlemen, whether it's in South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, or not so much Botswana because the progressives don't really have control, but Namibia, South Africa, Zimbabwe, the United States. When progressives are in control, lives are destroyed. There's no such thing as socialism, folks. It does not work. And if you need an African example, look at Tanzania. Go back to Tanzania's early history and see how that economy was utterly destroyed by the collectivization, by the state ownership of means production, and how it failed miserably. And Mzee Julius Nyerere understood the failure of their ways and reformed later, much later, but he reformed. And the lesson he left for other Africans was to listen to me. Don't follow the path that I took. He told Robert Mugabe, do not do this. It's a mistake. And guess what? One government after another around the world, not just in Africa, wants to follow that stupid mistake. They seem to think that only they can get it right. But you know why that is? Because a lot of these progressives are simply thieves. They want power, they want control so they can steal from the state and deprive others. That's what it's about. Some care, some actually believe the nonsense, but many, it's a mechanism for them to commit wealth because they don't have the talent, the drive, the energy, or the wherewithal to come up with an idea to like create an app for M-Pesa so you can transmit money over a mobile phone, or to create text messaging, or to design the Falcon 9 rocket to launch men into space and women eventually. Yeah, they lack that. They're has-beens and losers. The only way that they can get wealthy is by getting the hands of power and then taking from others and redistributing on the basis of nonsense by perpetuating myths about society. Whether it's in America or it's in South Africa, take your pick. It's a tried and true method of progressives. Didn't mean to turn this into a progressive rant, but I kind of got myself worked up and got there. So let me get back a little bit to the chat over here. They're chasing people away. What's he doing? What's he been drinking? Coca-Cola. Haven't got to my Starbucks yet. That's sitting over here. I was eating a little bit of lunch before I came on. Right. Okay. So Ramaphosa said that COVID-19 helps them speed up NDR because South Africa's coming. Yes, I know. Thank you, Ramaphosa. The mere statement that him making that demonstrates racism on his part. If that's his definition. The problem is that Ramaphosa doesn't believe that. Doesn't believe anything. He's been handed hundreds of millions of dollars worth of wealth and it's helped him become a billionaire. So that's his lesson in life. And before that, what he was in? Unions. Union organizer. So he knows to be a rabble rouser from that. And the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So he'll simply say whatever he needs to retain power and to do what he wants to do. And that's what Ramaphosa does. He changes like a chameleon for if he wants foreign direct investment. South Africa's open for business. Come here. You can do business here. We have fantastic business climate. No, you don't. You have a business climate that is in jeopardy because of the threat of expropriation without compensation of property. Yeah, not land, ladies and gentlemen, property, which includes mutual funds, retirement accounts, bank accounts, your car, your stereo set, your MP3 player, your mobile if they feel necessary. And those laws will be used by the government of the day, whether it's the ANC, it's the DEA, the EFF, whoever it is. They'll be used as a weapon against political opponents. Now, not in the same fashion, but they'll be used. The ANC will use it to scare you. If you speak out against the ANC, then they'll simply take away your property and you'll be penniless and destitute. That's why that law is important. That's why they want that law. That's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they're trying to do. Yeah, so racist economy. It's been run by the ANC for 26 years, so I don't know how it's racist unless they're racist. So please explain that one there, Cyril. Worst is most government-funded teachers have been getting full pay to stay home. Exactly right, Liaison. So they have no interest in this. Government employees the world over who are still getting paid, they have no dog in the fight. They're the ones most prevalent out there shaming people, attacking people for walking around stores and not comporting to the behavior that they seem to think is correct based on what government officials who consistently get the whole situation incorrect based on the data. They're wrong time and time again. I've covered this previously before, whether it's the World Health Organization and the Chinese Communist Party telling the world that you cannot transmit COVID-19 human in January. Yeah, check out their website, ladies and gentlemen. It's there. This isn't fake news. This is from the World Health Organization's website. It was fake then. They're the ones that provided it because they were wrong. They didn't know and they lied to us. They lied to us. And their lie is still up on their website. At least it was when I checked a week ago. Yeah, or telling us that we can't get it from our pets, we can't pass it to our pets. Now they're telling us keep your pets apart because you can pass it to our pets. They told us the fatality rate was 3.2, 3.4%. It's closer to 0.1 or 0.15, 0.2. So 1/10 to 0.2% is the actual fatality rate. Yeah, they told us that we had to flatten the curve so that hospitals could be prepared. Then we could return to our normal lives once we had our medical system. We did that months ago. We flattened the curve. Things have gone down like this for a month and a half here in the States. We're still in lockdown. Businesses collapsing around us left and right. South Africa, you know what I'm talking about. This isn't news to you. The good news is you have at least some decent governance, even under SWAPO and Namibia and under the BDP and Botswana. They've been easing their lockdown restrictions. But the problem is that it doesn't matter if they ease all of them and eliminate them. We're all in this together. because if someone has it, they just go from one place to another, and then the hysterical government leaders who know no better ramp it all back up again. So more folks are tuning into the stream. Thanks for coming in, folks. Glad to have you here. You're listening to Indaba Africa. This is Chris on a Stray Voltage live stream. Let me play my Stray Voltage video here. Now it's not working. There we go. Tintin, or 1010, as they say in French, from the character, the famous cartoon character or the books, ask a question. It says, if you were in the DA leadership, how would you address the power games that the ANC are playing? Well, I think from a legal standpoint, the Democratic Alliance has taken a sound approach in challenging these things that the African National Congress is doing in court. That's the right approach. But beyond that, I don't know what they're doing because I'm not on the ground. But if I were the DA, I would be actively already campaigning and building my campaign for the 2021 municipal elections and documenting every misstep that the ANC, it's not hard. Every day they do something stupid. Today, no briefing from the education minister about schools opening tomorrow. So now the whole country is wondering, are we going to school? Are we not going to school? You just told us a week ago we're going to school. And even the real president, Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, didn't contradict Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa. So we must be going back to school. Only the education minister didn't dare. And why? Because the teachers' unions have told South African teachers to defy the government order to go back to school because schools aren't clean. It's insanity. So the bigger part of this is that the Democratic Alliance and all opposition parties in South Africa, if this is truly a democracy, if it actually exists, if real governance still exists in South Africa, at least you have to presume that it does, because when the NC's been challenged and they've been proven wrong, they've backed off of it. So what they need to do is they need to be in the townships. They need to be in the rural areas. They need to be out now. You need to be recruiting youth. There are 900,000 South Africans who turn 18 each and every year. So 2019 to 2024 national elections, that's 4.5 million people. Take away those who die, those who immigrate to go to school abroad for university, this, that, and the other. You got about 3.8 million people. From that, you ought to be able to carve away at least 800 to 1,000 or 800,000 to 1 million votes from that if you actively campaign and get people to identify with political ideals and not with party identity affiliation. And we will see the ANC drop in 2021 below 50%. And if things were right in the world, they would drop as low as 38% in 2024. I'm not predicting that at this stage, but I am predicting that they should lose all the metros. But the DA, if I was in charge of it, would be actively going through each of the provinces and each of the party organizations. And if I've got people that aren't doing things, aren't carrying their weight, aren't getting out and seeing people, aren't recruiting coloreds, Indians, Black South Africans from all parties, if we aren't doing things in DA, speaking to people in their own languages like Xhosa, Venda, Sotho, Tswana, then I would be looking for some new people in the DA. Because you need to represent the entire country. I'm not saying the DA doesn't do that, but what I'm saying is that I don't see the inside of what they're doing. That's what I would do if I was a DA leader. And that's just a start. Beyond that, there needs to be a branch of the DA that's actively engaged in hitting up Washington, hitting up London, hitting up Berlin, places like that, and constantly engage with them from a shadow government perspective, sharing what the government here in South Africa, well, here there in South Africa is doing. That's what I would do if I was head of the DA. That's just a start. There's more to it than that, but I don't want to give all the secrets away. But that's what I'd be doing 1010. Turning South Africa into the USR type gulag. Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. Hendo, welcome. Good to see you. Wangi Muyen, I always get your name wrong. Sorry. Munyuga. Munyuga. Hey, good to see you, Wangi. Did you get to watch Plandemic? Thoughts? No, I haven't seen that. Did you mention that to me? My apologies if I didn't follow up on that. And thanks for being back. Good to see you here again. And to relax, Chris Herman basically said, if you're white and don't know about the guy that was killed at the police in the USA, then we. So Herman said, if you're white and you don't know about the George Floyd that was killed by the police in the U.S., then you're the problem. Okay. So is he talking about South Africans who are white or a problem, or is he talking about, if you're white and American, you don't know about you're the problem? Yeah. Okay. So yesterday, a number of white Americans were killed in police custody. Oh, no riots, no news media coverage. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, the Department of Justice keeps track of those killed unlawfully in police control each and every year in this country, and it ranges from 500 to as many as 1,000 people a year in a country of 330 million people. But when you think about the hundreds of millions of interactions between law enforcement and different levels of law enforcement and the public, the number is not as startling as it sounds. But between 500, usually closer to 500, but 500 as many as 800, sometimes up to 1,000, depending on what's going on. But the majority of those people, not a plurality, the majority of those people are white Americans each and every year who die unnecessarily in police custody without a camera taking pictures and spreading around and starting riots. Now, I'm not seeking to diminish the death of anyone in police custody. They're probably all wrong and should not happen. And that's a shortcoming of law enforcement and the people they're selecting for it. But that doesn't condemn the entire law enforcement system or police officers, and it certainly doesn't condemn the social fabric of the United States. But what I am saying is that people do this for a specific political purpose. What is being done for right now is this has nothing to do with George Floyd. That's over, ladies and gentlemen. That was the first few days in Minneapolis. This is lawlessness perpetuated by Antifa and other progressive groups seeking to undermine governance in this country, and they don't care the consequences. Who dies, who's beaten on the street. Look, I saw a video of a guy, I don't know where it was, it looked like it was DC, who was attacked by a bunch of freaking Antifa nuts, beaten, knocked to the ground, then come up and kick him in the face and knocked half his teeth out. He's a white guy. Guess who he was attacked by? By blacks? No, by whites. And the press is barely covering this. The only reason we know about it is because it was on social media. It doesn't show up on the national news. They don't cover that. What they cover is Atlanta with a number of black Americans standing in front of a police line, toying and taunting the police to give the impression that this country is bifurcated on racial lines and that there's a brewing race war because it suits their narrative. Now, there's truth to some of that, but that is not what's going on. That is over. This is about anarchy. And this is the latest attempt by the left to destroy and get rid of Orange Man Bad. That's what this is about now. That's right. They failed on Russia collusion. They failed on General Flynn. Now they've been exposed for the crimes they committed there. And notice how no one's talking about that, but the papers came out this week of the transcripts of the call between Kislyak, the Russian ambassador, and General Flynn. There's not a damn thing in there that even warrants a question, let alone a warrant or surveillance, and the unmasking of an American using unlawful signals intelligence to spy on him. Shameful criminal action taking place by the Obama administration. No discussion of it. And why is that? Because now the streets are on fire. Now that's not what wasn't created to distract from, but my point is that that's not the narrative. That should be the narrative. That should be the narrative, but that's not what's talked about now. No, because it doesn't suit the needs of the progressive left, who care little about this country, South Africa, or any other country. They only care about power. And they don't care who they harm. By the way, so for those who don't know, apparently, now I'm looking for more sources, but I've heard it from 3 sources, but on this one, I really want to be sure. But apparently, Amy Klobuchar, the senator from Minnesota, who was running for president on the Democratic ticket, but then famously colluded with Joe Biden to step out just in time for him to win South Carolina. Isn't that crazy? After all her, Clomentum, yay, Amy, Clomentum. Yeah, when she did really well in New Hampshire and she trounced old Sleepy Joe up there, then suddenly she withdrew just before South Carolina, and he magically won South Carolina, largely on a black vote, but not exclusively. All of his other opponents, like Pete Buttigieg, disappeared as did Amy Klobuchar. So the Clomentum went nowhere. Amy Klobuchar, as a prosecutor, apparently refused to prosecute the police officer who was responsible for the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Many years ago, as a prosecutor, she chose not to prosecute him for another police brutality incident in which he was involved. Guess what? Amy Klobuchar will not be the vice president of the United States, even if Sleepy Joe wins. Her path to that seat is gone now. Yeah, that's what you get. That's what you get. Anyway. So I'm falling behind on the chat again. Sorry about that. PP says, with regards to South Africa, the next 3 to 6 months, economic. Well, here's the problem. It's very difficult to make that projection, PP. The problem, I would say, when it comes to South Africa, particularly economically, is at what stage do we lift this nonsense? I know a lot of people can go back to work tomorrow, but ladies and gentlemen, pay attention to traffic. If you live in a major metro area like Johannesburg, you're traveling around on that big beltway that goes around the city, or if you're traveling into Durban or PE or somewhere like that, and get a feel for, is this like it was pre-COVID-19? Because I suspect it won't be anything like it. Now, your memory might be fuzzy because it's been a couple months you've been prisoners in your home. But tomorrow, when we see who can go back to work, or just a matter of hours now in South Africa, we'll see what it's really like. But I'm telling you that we've likely seen 3, 4, or more million jobs disappear in South Africa. And making an economic prediction, I think, is a foolhardy at this point. If enough, and I don't know what enough is because I don't know how many jobs are left, but if enough people get back to work and start reinvigorating the economy now on June 1st, then the country can get back on a path. But I still think that the economic devastation that's been wrought by this nonsensical lockdown is devastating, and South Africa has been set back a decade at a minimum in economic development. It was already retarded by the bizarre, asinine macroeconomic policies of the African National Congress. Now it's been set back even further. So that's difficult to make projections. So we'll have to wait and see and get some numbers coming back. But I don't hold out any good hope. Now, for the companies that have money and have resources and be able to sit back, they're going to make a killing as people go back to work and people need things, services, goods. If they have the resources to hold this over or to survive this, they're going to be great. And for small businesses, if you were somehow able to reduce your costs and survive this, and you're able to resume your normal business, demand is going to pick up. And so there's going to be some economic growth from that. But will it be enough to recover what's been lost? That's what we have to wait and see. It's certainly not going to be enough to increase the economy, because we've seen that the erosion of property rights, the erosion of fair business space with BEE, which forces racial legislation onto companies, those things have so undermined the economic development of South Africa that they must go in order for it to pick up and go somewhere. Politically, I think politically the ANC has stepped on their crank. I really think they've made some huge mistakes here, and that the ANC, by all rights, if the opposition parties are doing the things I suggested earlier to answer that question, the ANC should suffer horribly at the polls in 2021. Now, in the last municipal elections, 2016, they took a big hit, and they didn't learn the right lesson. The ANC didn't learn that their pathetic governance, piss poor service delivery, and the state corruption of the Zuma era were the reasons why they lost support and why they lost Cape Town. Well, they didn't have Cape Town, but why they lost more votes in Cape Town. They lost control of Nelson Mandela Bay to the DA getting 45%, a plurality of the vote, versus their 38%. Why they lost control of Johannesburg, where they had the plurality, but not enough to lead the government, and the DA was able to form a coalition to rule until Herman Mashaba betrayed the party with his nonsense and left, and why they lost Shwana. They didn't learn the lesson. What they learned there is that, well, our tactics weren't good. We need to be more, contrarian and fight these coalitions and try to prevent governance, kind of like Antifa is doing here, trying to prevent people from governing. That's what the ANC learned. They need to be sent a clear message in 2021 that their policies are the reason that they need to be pushed aside. Their policies are abject failures. Communism does not work. Socialism is abysmal. And that a free market capitalist system and proper education for all South Africans is what is needed. The end of the racialization of the environment in South Africa is what is healthy for South Africa, not the nonsense that the ANC is perpetuating. And every single time that they fail, the reason can't be because of racism, because of apartheid. When all the white people are gone in South Africa, whose fault is it then? The coloreds? When all the coloreds are gone, is it the Indians' fault? When all of them are gone, whose fault is it? Is it the Xhosa? Or is it the Tswana speakers who held South Africa back? The ANC could only have made South Africa paradise if it weren't for the Tswana. We got rid of the whites. We got rid of the Indians. We got rid of the coloreds. It's apartheid and those Venda. It's utter nonsense. It's classifying people like this. Anyway, hot full of the ANC's nonsense. All right, back to this. What do Heinz says, Heinz Blau. That's a cool name, Heinz Blau. Hi, Chris. What do you think of Ramaphosa meant by economic reset? Could it be expropriate? I think it could be. And I was hoping they would step away from this nonsense. But I don't know if Cyril Ramaphosa is serious. You can't take the guy, what he says, seriously. He's a chameleon. He'll say what he needs to when he needs to say it. When there was pressure about the tobacco ban, he said, well, under level 4, we were lifting the tobacco ban, only to be contradicted and countermanded by Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. Yeah, so the tobacco ban is still in effect, even at level 3. It doesn't go away till like level 1 or 0 or whatever the heck. So Ramaphosa will say whatever he needs to say, whenever he needs to say it. So I can only hope that he's not serious. And the ANC knows they're losing support. And they know they're losing support because of the conduct of the police, the conduct of the military, and of the ANC's decisions. It's not just white people that smoke in South Africa. It's not just white people, certainly not just white people who drink in South Africa. A lot of people are very angry at the ANC. There's a lot of hungry kids in townships all over the country. And I'm about to read about one of those here in just a second. So they're losing support. And if they have a brain in their head, which I question at times, they know they're losing support. And so they're trying to do things to arrest that decline. if the country were up in arms and upset about white monopoly capital and export the land is ours and all that, then the EFF would get 60% of the vote. If that were the case, they would be a ruling party instead of a minor opposition party that has an attraction of people who find Julius Malema's nonsense and his racism to be attractive. But fortunately for South Africa, that is a minority of South Africans, especially minority of Black South Africans. So anyway, so I think that's, but I'm concerned, Heinz. I think it's a legitimate question, but I don't know. I hope that he's just doing what he always does, saying what he needs to. Doc Berger says, it's all mean the pandemic failed, trigger the race battles. Yeah, the race battles come right back. Well, look at it here. Russia collusion failed. Impeachment failed. Blaming Trump for COVID-19 failed. What's next? Racial bifurcation of the country, the tried and true method of Democrats and leftists. The Democratic Party, the party that for decades fought against the civil rights legislation. The party that, were it not for the fact that the states in rebellion couldn't vote, we were able to get ratification of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment because they weren't part of the process. But if they'd been allowed to vote, we wouldn't have had enough votes for 2/3 to ratify those constitutional amendments now, would we? Yes, that's right. The Democratic Party, the party born in Andrew Jackson's time, the party that stole the land from Cherokees and other Native Americans, including Seminoles, and forced them to march overland to Oklahoma, in which thousands of Indians died in the Trail of Tears. Yes, that's the true legacy of the Democratic Party. The party that interred over 100,000 ethnic Japanese, many of them native-born citizens. But the mere fact that they looked different, they were put in concentration camps, had to sell their properties and businesses at a fire sale, oftentimes got nothing for it, and then were defrauded. Yet many of them served honorably in uniform and helped us defeat the Nazis in Germany. Japanese Americans interned in concentration camps, upheld by the Supreme Court as legal. The discrimination, the internment, the concentration camps for Japanese Americans based on their appearance, not based on their loyalty. That is the legacy of the Democratic Party. Shall I continue? Can I get an amen? Let's get Dinesh D'Souza in here. He could tell you this story quite well. An immigrant to America, a brown man to America from India, massive success, whose conduct was turned into a prison sentence by the Obama administration because he was an outspoken critic of them. How do you like that? Talk about state abuse. That's the left. Okay, so Wesley says to Heinz, in my view, whatever he meant by that little speech in the long run, it's definitely not good news. Yeah, okay, that's Wesley. That's sort of how I leave it right now. It's definitely not good news. Brolix, Bittergal, that probably has something to do with Bollocks, I'm not sure, but anyway. Scapegoating capitalism is a convenient backdoor that COVID provides these cheeky socialists. Absolutely right, RB. I'm with you there. Hey, wow, we're getting more folks tuning in for the stream. Thanks for coming in. For those of you in South Africa, I know it's getting a bit late in the evening, so we got, 5 o'clock here, so that's 11 o'clock. So this is your late night tune in. For those of you actually going back to work tomorrow in South Africa, congratulations. If you have a job to go back to, I pray that everyone does, but I know that that's a naive thought. People have lost, I have a couple colleagues in South Africa who've lost their entire business as a consequence of this nonsense. Yep. So anyway, race battles. Oops, just a ghost. Let me get you back there. Wow, I'm way behind the chat. My goodness, folks. Where's Chris at? What's taking so long? That's what happens when you go on a rant there, folks. Tintin, the leadership already did that one. Heinz. Okay, there we go. Race battles. Antifa burning black. Yeah, and beating black people, dragging black people out of cars and beating them in the streets because Black Lives Matter. Yeah. Okay, we got your story. We know what you're all about. Triple junk bond status. Yeah, that's coming for South Africa very soon. Trump said he will take. Has Trump said he will take us from our side? Oh, you're talking about refugees? No, that hasn't been talked about. But that's something that people with vision ought to be taking a close look from South Africa. Political parties and civic groups to be approaching the U.S. government about a potential flood of refugees if this nonsense happens. I hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, that needs to be discussed very seriously. I think we're reaching that stage. I'm not a prepper. I'm not a sky is falling person, and I've avoided this sort of talk for decades now. But it's not looking promising, ladies and gentlemen. Your great hope of Cyril Ramaphosa, the Ramaphoria, which I cautioned people was wrong in 2017, turns out, gosh, I was right. Socialist leader, charming psychopath gets his kick. Good. How many socialites donated to the COVID fund? Not too many, but the socialites in America, the Hollywood studs, are all donating to the bailing the criminals out of jail who are beating people in the streets, and they're paying for their bail now. Tuberculosis is a much bigger problem, not just in the Western Cape, but all over South Africa. 650 South Africans have tuberculosis, and you have about 340,000 who are co-infected with tuberculosis and HIV. Very sad. Lana says, thank you. Well, you're most welcome, Lana. It's my pleasure. Um, get you online. So messed up. We have run out of testing kits. Yeah, not a surprise. Failed badly. Glad to see you live. Yeah, glad to have you here, Gareth. My pleasure to get you in. I'm trying to catch up on the chat. I'm falling behind. Not the best of hosts here at this point. Lazan says the problem is the people in the townships don't listen to the outsiders. The people outside the community are scared of old ants. Yeah, I think Lazan, you have a good point there. One of the problems is a lot of people are afraid to go into these places. That's why the opposition parties need people like Big Daddy Liberty, who's not afraid to go in there, not afraid to speak their mind. And there are more South Africans like him. You've got to find them. You've got to get them to your cause. I'm not being naive. There are people like that out there, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, look at Thabo Mbeki's brother. He's a rational, reasonable, cogent, clear-thinking economist. He doesn't get everything right, but he certainly has his heart in the right place. You need to get people like that, and there are people like that in South Africa. Let's see. Jacques says, Chris is locked down and all the regulations South Africa, basically introduction of socialism and communism in South Africans because it feels well, you already had it going on, Jacques. I think what's going on is it's never waste an opportunity. That's what's happening there. That's what's happening here. Governments with overreach doing things and oppressing people in ways that they couldn't get away with were it not. But here's the bottom line. What is the emergency in South Africa? The death of 300 people? That's 6 days of murders in South Africa. Yet you've shut down the country and destroyed the economy and turned over 230,000 law-abiding South Africans into criminals for heinous crimes like sitting on the beach, exercising, surfing. Yeah, never let a good opportunity go to waste. And that's what's happening by progressives around the world. Sean says, have you considered a possible DA-ANC coalition? The ANC will fall below, but there will. No, I don't think an ANC DA coalition government's possible, Sean, unless it's localized and it's ANC that are actually legitimate. Now, when I talk about the ANC, there are good people in the ANC, ladies and gentlemen. Some of you disagree with that, but there are honest, hardworking, patriotic South Africans committed to multiracial, market-based economy that are within the ANC. But for whatever reason, they were attracted to the ANC either during the liberation struggle or after it, because it was the only path to power, and they got involved in it. They're part of the party. But the problem is that balance is out of whack. It used to be they were in the primacy, and the majority was these leftists who want to kill everybody and nationalize everything. That is swung in the wrong direction, and that's the problem with the ANC now. So it's not impossible for a coalition government in, say, a small local municipality to form a coalition with the ANC. But I think the answer here is that you need to win an outright majority, say if you're the DA, and that's within reach. Nelson Mandela, 2016, 45% of the vote, largest party polled the DA, despite losing 9,000 votes. If they got those 9,000 votes, they would have won an outright majority and controlled Nelson Mandela Bay right up to the present. They have clear control of Cape Town. They came very close in Johannesburg. They had 42% of the vote in Pretoria and took it, and they had 38% in Johannesburg. The ANC can easily be pushed back, especially after this overreach of COVID-19, and that's what these parties need to focus on. God help America if your cops exchange their guns for batons. No, we won't be happening. But God help America if cops start shooting people. This could really get out of control. Cops have shown amazing restraint around the country. In fact, too much restraint, in my view. Cops allowing their police stations to be destroyed. People breaking into, I saw like 15 cruisers in LA. Why are the cops abandoning their cruisers in the streets? Were they immobilized? Did someone use like a remote control to shut down their engines? No. I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. But you don't leave all those cars. They have rifles and shotguns, and they have radios, and they have pepper spray, and they have restraints. They have all sorts of things that people up to mischievous behavior now have in their hands, potentially. And over at least $1 million worth of cruisers destroyed, probably more, just in that one scene I saw from Los Angeles. This is unacceptable. This is piss poor governance by governors and mayors. You have a National Guard, mobilize it, use it. National Guards around the country are trained in riot control and demonstration procedures. We know how, because I used to be a guardsman, we know how to use nightsticks and not use deadly force. We know how to move in a phalanx using shields, and how to disperse crowds, and how to properly use tear gas, and how to capture people and detain them and hand them over to law enforcement. That's known by National Guards around the country. Why that's not being employed is beyond me. If you're trying not to incense and raise the temperature, it's too late for that. These people run around dragging people out of shops and beating the streets. Saw a video earlier of Rochester, New York. This couple in their business, this family-owned business, these people come up, white and black, by the way. They start beating them with 2x4s, breaking in their business. And then the guy comes outside, they grab his wife, a frail little old woman, and the two drag her over the street and start beating her over the head with sticks. For what? That is not reason. It has nothing to do with reality. These are criminals, and they must be prosecuted. The world is effed up. Thank you, Cartier Sim Racing. Yep. No hurricane in a report on why did they attack CNN? Well, isn't that ironic? CNN, who are the merchants of this nonsense, gets their headquarters, and the CNN Plaza gets attacked by these idiots. Well, they gathered there because the newspaper folks were there, the media was there. Yeah, well, I don't condone it, and I'm not going to say CNN got what they deserved. That's not right because this wanton destruction is unacceptable. But it is ironic that CNN's Plaza in Atlanta was a target of this. Yeah, anyway, Garrett says, don't think we'll get there. They're already setting up the start of one party dictatorship with sidelining populist parties. Well, I hope not. Transcript enhances Flynn's reputation. Yeah, thank you, 1RB. In fact, the transcript lays bare the fraud perpetrated on the FISA court, the the Intelligence Surveillance Act court. Yep, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act court, excuse me. I didn't know that was counterintelligence. The FISA court was defrauded. The judge who issued the warrant ought to be going for before judicial review to explain the actions of how that warrant was ever issued on the basis of this. This is a problem with secret courts, ladies and gentlemen. As an intelligence officer and as someone who relied on those courts to get warrants so that we could collect the information on Americans who were betraying their country, we were always very cautious about that because it's a very slippery slope. In the FISA court, the subject is not represented. So we are entitled to representation in this country. But in the FISA court for surveillance, which can be used against you in a criminal trial later, the judge decides based on what the government tells them. And it's up to the judge as an independent actor to make the right call. Judges often make the right call, but in this case, clearly they did not. And the intelligence services and law enforcement were used for political purposes in the greatest political scandal in the history of the United States without question, bar none. As the facts continue to be released, we discover the shame that occurred in this country. And I would like to see jail sentences for an awful lot of people. We'll see what happens, though. Yeah, it did enhance General Flynn's reputation. You know, when General Flynn, my thoughts of General Flynn go, and he was an Army intelligence officer just like me, except he's a 3-star. I was a colonel. So we served in the same Army, the same intelligence branch. General Flynn contradicted things that the Obama administration, the president himself said when he was the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, because he disagreed with the Obama administration. Well, that was insubordinate and out of the norm and not the kind of behavior that we endorse in uniform. So I always had sort of an issue with General Flynn's conduct when it came to that. I didn't comment it publicly, but I had an issue with it while I was a serving officer. So when he got in trouble with this, collusion thing, I had doubts about it, but I didn't have difficulty seeing that he was a person that could get himself into trouble because of his personal actions when it comes to this sort of thing. So I wasn't entirely surprised. Now, when I see the transcripts, I'm astounded at the nonsense that took place here and what they got away with. Absolutely what they got away with. Not only is General Flynn vindicated, but it just shows how criminal and inept and corrupt the people who were investigating him were. And those people need to be brought to account. But we've seen nobody brought to account, ladies and gentlemen. Hillary Clinton has yet to be charged for her felonies that she committed in stealing classified information. Yeah, that's what she did. She stole the classified information. It doesn't magically appear on a server in a mail room, in a broom closet in Phoenix, Arizona, coming from a top secret sensitive compartmented information behind closed doors, closed network, and a machine in which you're not allowed to put removable media into. It doesn't get out of that. There's no signals that go out that you can intercept and decode and put that on your mail server. You only get those top secret images from intelligence sources that are protected with the highest of classification on a top secret system with sensitive compartment information inside what is known as a SCIF, or sensitive compartment information facility inside the U.S. government. The only way for that to get out is for Hillary Clinton or one of her acolytes to steal it. There's a felony. And a whole list of federal crimes violated. Simply having is a federal crime. Not reporting is a federal crime. Doesn't matter whether you know about it or not. Anyway, so she's not been prosecuted. And the list goes on and on. Eric Holder, Fast and Furious, giving guns to criminal syndicates in Mexico, which got a U.S. DEA agent, Kiki Camarena, murdered. Yeah, list goes on and on. The misuse of the Internal Revenue Service by Lois Lerner against Tea Party groups applying for nonprofit status so they didn't have to pay taxes because they weren't businesses. Abused. No prison time. No serious investigations. Anyway. Transcript. Joe Biden is, yeah, okay, thank you. Look at every U.S. serving soldier, police officers doing their duty and their hats go up. Well, thank you so much, PE Distributors. Yeah, we all have a few bad eggs here and there, but most people do their job, and it's tough. I have a lot of respect for law enforcement, first responders, and emergency medical technicians, EMTs and such. Those people really put themselves in line each and every day. As a soldier, that's not a daily occurrence for us. When it happens, it's intense and it can be frequent, but thankfully it's not as frequent as it is for law enforcement. You don't know what's going to happen. When you pull a car over because someone's driving dangerously, or you get a report of a car that's missing, or you come up, you have no idea what's going to happen. You don't. And your life is in jeopardy each and every time you approach a car. And when people get belligerent with law enforcement, look, I've been around police officers. I've been pulled over for no reason. In fact, they gave me no reason why I got pulled over, which is not even legal, but I don't argue with it. I've been pulled over, you get angry, you're irritated, but I never question the authority of a police officer. First off, the guy's armed. Why am I going to piss off someone who's got a sidearm? You don't want them having a bad day. But people don't use good judgment. People get confrontational when they get around law enforcement. And I don't know if they're inculcated improperly as children, or they watch too much television, or what makes them think they watch too many episodes of Cops, bad boys, bad boys. What you gonna do? Yeah, maybe they learn from that. I don't know, but being belligerent with police officers is not a good idea, regardless of where you are. Regardless where you are, I've been harassed by police in Africa as well. Never been belligerent. I've been adamant, which is very different than being belligerent. But people tend to get belligerent. Some people with law enforcement, which escalates things. In the Floyd case, I didn't see what happened. I just saw the gentleman on the ground with a knee in his neck, and I don't know how he got there or what was happening on the other side of the car. So I'm not going to comment on that. But I'm just talking in general about law enforcement. The vast majority do a brilliant job and keep us safe, or try to. AG, what about the 70-year-old white man that got beaten up by a black nurse? Didn't get any coverage. What about, ladies and gentlemen, what about this one? Does anyone remember a few years ago during the Obama administration when suddenly it became fashionable to come up and smack elderly Jewish people in New York City in the back of the head, to hit them in the back of the head, to whack them? Does anybody remember that? Yeah. That was race-based racism, attacking Jews, elderly Jews. Some were seriously injured. A few suffered brain damage. Where was the Eric Holder Attorney General's office then? Where was the Obama administration on that? Or the Black Panthers, menacing elderly white voters in Philadelphia polling stations by standing right outside the door, against law, by the way, against federal election law and Pennsylvania state election law, standing right outside the door, menacingly holding nightsticks and threatening elderly white voters, telling them they couldn't vote at their polling station. No civil rights investigation of that. No Voting Rights Act violation investigation of that. No, the double standard is ridiculous. Now, don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not advocating that bad things only happen to one group of people. Bad things happen to everybody. But the uneven discussion about what happens in this country and the lies perpetuated about it get really old. And the same in South Africa. For South Africans, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You dealt with this on a daily basis, no matter what your ethnicity is there. Terrence, hi, hope you're well. I'm well. I've got a little triggered here, talking about nonsense here in America. Didn't mean to do that, so let me get off that for a little bit. But thank you. I'm Will. Hank says good night. Have a blessed weekend. All right, thanks a lot. Paleo Joe, cheers, guys. Have a great evening. Wesley took off too. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, insert race on same race, just mess. Yeah, just flip it around. People on both sides do it. It can only rule in chaos. Well, that's the bottom line with leftists, Jack Sparrow. Only rule when they have chaos. Collins Costa murder also did not get much coverage. Yeah. Now, AG, that's interesting. Why did that happen? If that was in America, we'd be hearing about it now. Collins died a long time ago at the beginning of lockdown, didn't he? Killed by the security services. SAPS and SANDF officers yet to be identified publicly. The judge has ruled them dismissed and to be punished for this, because they contributed or caused the death of Collins Kosa. And there was a brief uproar, but Black Twitter has been silent about Collins Kosa. The media goes to great lengths to point out a white couple arrested for sitting on the beach, which is shameful that that happened, but the focus is on that. But all the abuses happening to colored, Black, Indian South Africans are ignored by the media. They're barely touched on. Ladies and gentlemen, if you think that the SAPs and the SANDF are only hanging out in the Western Cape, yes, they are there present, but there are other places. And I've heard from people anecdotally, I've driven all over, I didn't see the police, I didn't see them here, I didn't see them there. I got that. But ladies and gentlemen, they are in townships, and they are abusing people there as well. But we're not seeing the coverage of it because they cannot afford that to be the narrative. But if it was America, see, in South Africa, the majority rules, ethnicity, majority rules. The ANC is primarily, not entirely, there's lots of whites and there's others in the party, but its ethos is it's identifying as a Black party, even though it's not, it's identifying as such. So majority rules in South Africa. Here are majority rules. Contrary to what people tell you, 70% of this country is white or European descent today, 70%. It was 89% 40 years ago, but today it's 80 or 70%. So that's a majority, and that's a majority in virtually every state in this country. Well, in every state in this country except for Hawaii, I think is the only place where whites are not the majority. And they're an overwhelming majority in three-quarters of the country. But you wouldn't know that from the press coverage. And here, a minority person is killed in the hands of the police. It makes national news. There, a majority person is killed. It makes no news. Kind of like one majority white person here. It's inconsistent by the press, and for them, it serves a purpose. Right. So, loving Australia, not loving life. Yeah, get online. Just got off Loving Life channel. Oh, well, thanks for coming in, Hendo. I've only tried to watch that guy a couple of times, and I really couldn't stick with it. I know a lot of people like him. He's got a lot of subscribers. The few times I've been on, he just complained about everything, and he just called people names. And I'm not trying to denigrate. I'm just being honest about what I heard. I tried to watch it again last week because he had a subject that looked interesting, and then he had a video, and I went to watch it. And it was canceled, so I guess his interviewee didn't show up, and he didn't have the courtesy to go on and tell people. But I'm not here to argue about that guy. I don't. Someone said I should go on that channel. I don't know if he'd be interested in me being on, but. Anyway, yeah. So hopefully that was an interesting discussion, Hendo. Maybe something good came out of it. Lizan says kids don't get taught to respect authority. There you go. And it started with my generation of people born in the '60s who raised kids, and they weren't taught to respect authority. They were taught to actually challenge authority, and that's part of the problem. And that's a global phenomenon. That's not simply in the U.S. or South Africa. People lost respect somewhere along the way in an attempt to make kids more assertive. They made them self-important, entitled brats. Bingo! Now, not all of them, obviously. There's a lot of kids well-behaved and respected and respectful, but far too many. Let me see. Oh, Europe doesn't agree with you. Oh, Europe Rising disagrees with you. Teaching blacks won't do anything. Lezan Hindo, sorry to hear you had to listen to Do you need a hug? That's nice. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the last news story that I want to get into here, which I'm finally getting around to because we've had lots of chat and I've been trying to keep up with it, and I got triggered once or twice there, is South Africa's alcohol ban has given massive boost to criminal gangs. Wow, what a surprising development. Who saw that one coming? Now, we didn't know that was going to happen, did we? Yeah. Hendo says we all have detractors. No biggie. He does good work helping charities even tonight. Well, there you go, Hendo. See, I didn't know he did anything for charities. That's that's respectful. I mean, that's good to know. Maybe I'll give him another chance. I'll give it another try and see if I find something interesting on his channel. But that picture in the background's got to go, man. I feel like I'm epileptic. I'm having a shock every time I turn it on. He's got that painting in the background, and I understand it's on purpose, but it's very distracting for me. But I can always just listen to it. But anyway. Just a Ghost has got to go. One of the coolest names on YouTube, Just a Ghost. I love that one. Just a Ghost, have a good evening. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate being here. You're missing out on the alcohol discussion. I guess you don't want any booze. You can get it tomorrow from 9 o'clock until 5 p.m. You can go to the package store and stand in line with 37,000 other South Africans. Maintain your social distance of 2 centimeters so that you can get in the queue. So anyway, so this is an article by Jason Burke, who's based in Johannesburg, and it came out today. It just came out just a couple hours ago. I printed this out just before I came on here. Right. Yeah, it's The Guardian. Yes, The Guardian is dodgy. But normally for their Africa coverage, Hendo, The Guardian, in my view, and I read a lot of things and I know a lot about the continent, they do a reasonably objective job of reporting on much of the continent. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, for those tuning in, this is a Stray Voltage live stream. I'm Chris, coming to you from Central Pennsylvania on the Indaba Africa channel. Thanks for tuning in. This one has been focused largely on the United States and South Africa today, kind of neglecting the rest of the continent and other geopolitical issues like the Chinese about to get handed their hat over Hong Kong. The U.S. is suspending all the privileges that Hong Kong has had when it comes to trade and finance with the U.S. because it's obvious now that the Chinese government is trying to subjugate Hong Kong under the same rules that mainland communist China is under. So they're no longer going to get the advantage. Now, it's too late. I think had that been done 20 years ago, China would have been more brought to heel. But they no longer need Hong Kong the way they need Hong Kong in 97 and 2007, even 2015, to access Western capital and Western markets and Western banking. So I think it's too late. But at least Trump has done something about that. So we'll see what happens. So anyway, back to the alcohol ban. So Jason Berg says the lockdown's been tough for David Nkoswe, a mechanic who lives in Alexandria. Since Ramaphosa restricted sorry, this is for UK audience, so he's telling people who Cyril Ramaphosa is. South Africa's president restricted the country's 56 million inhabitants to their homes in late March. Mukose is only earns if he works, and any savings were quickly spent. For the last 3 weeks, there's been no money to buy milk for his 9-month-old daughter. My little girl's been crying all the time, he said yesterday. The reason I'm reading this to you is just to point out the callousness of this lockdown and the sheer lunacy of stopping people who are perfectly healthy with no underlying, I don't know if he's has an underlying condition, but stopping these people from going about daily commerce and interacting in society has been corrosive across the board. This is a black South African, and I think that someone like this is probably a lot less inclined to vote for the ANC now. Critics describe the prohibition on alcohol imposed by Ramaphosa on the March 27th as puritanical and arbitrary. And I would also call it paternalistic, pedantic, and unnecessary. And now we're seeing it lifted to some degree tomorrow, but only in a fashion. Traffic, okay, so murders have come down by 63% during the lockdown. I find that statistic to be questionable. Now, this one came from ISS in Pretoria, which is a reliable source for information, but I question the veracity of the statistics that they're getting from the government. I don't question ISS. Traffic accidents, a major cause of death, are down in South Africa. But ladies and gentlemen, think about tomorrow morning. Keep this in mind for those of you who haven't been driving your cars. If you haven't been getting around in a car for 2 months, people are going to be rusty. There's going to be a spike in accidents. Hopefully not in fatalities, but there will be a spike in accidents for people driving a standard stick shift who haven't driven that vehicle in a while. A little bit rusty. Your reaction times are going to be off. You're not as polished as you were driving. Put millions of people back on the road simultaneously and look what happens. So traffic accidents are going to climb again. Yeah, so this was just an article talking about the alcohol ban and how it's really facilitated criminal gangs. Yes, The Guardian can be dodgy, particularly for anything related to Europe, anything on the UK, and of course, any article they ever write about the United States. Just you can pretty much use that for toilet paper or for compost. But they do pretty good coverage, like Al Jazeera, of Africa. But really what The Guardian is good, and I will give them this, no matter who owns it, no matter what they're doing, no matter they're about their e-begging for money for subscriptions, The Guardian, when it comes to rugby, is pretty good. They do a really good job. So let's see. Liaison, you got to go. Okay, well, thanks for being here, Liaison. Yeah, you got to get to work. Be careful, drive safely to work, Liaison, and maintain that social distancing. Use bleach. No. Which greatest story I've never told on BitChute archive? Well, watch, I'm sorry. Educate yourself. If government had any sense, they would put up testing stations, liquor store, and have everyone tested in a week. Well, there you go. You're not in government. There's an idea coming from someone that actually makes sense. Of course, they don't have enough test kits, so that's not even going to be feasible. But your point is well taken, because don't get most people. Well, that in schools, that covers most of it. I think USA is on the verge of civil war, which is going to spill worldwide. People tired of radical left. I don't think we're on the verge of a civil war here, Fonz. I think that the slow response by mayors and governors is exacerbated a situation in which leftist progressives are taking advantage of, and the media is their willful co-collaborators in spreading a narrative. This country is not broken on race in the way that they tell people. There are race issues here, and certainly in particular jurisdictions are, but it is not dividing that way. I think that simply will take, I think the step of President Trump declaring Antifa a terrorist organization and all the co-commitment things that come along with that will have a very quick impact on this. Hope I'm right about that. And then if we start to see, now Trump said, if Minnesota didn't get the Guard out there, he was going to use the National Guard. And somebody's like, well, he doesn't control the National Guard unless they're federalized. The federal government can federalize National Guards at any time. Once they're federalized, they're federal troops, and they are trained in that sort of thing. So the orders can come from the Pentagon, not from the governor. So the governor of Minnesota better get his act together. He's going to find out he doesn't control the Guard anymore. Anyway, yeah, most medical advice will recommend quarantine sick people, not healthy ones. Yeah, exactly. The reason we had leper colonies for leprosy is we took the people with leprosy and isolated them from the rest of society. Now, I'm not advocating this, but when Cuba, the way they got HIV under control from soldiers coming back from Angola in the 1980s, before people even knew about HIV, they brought it back to Cuba. Once they discovered it, and once we knew about the virus, they isolated everybody with HIV positive, basically kept them as prisoners. Now, they were well-treated prisoners. They basically lived in homes with apartments and things like that, but they couldn't go anywhere, and they got HIV under control. You isolate the affected population or the vulnerable population. You don't isolate the healthy population with no underlying conditions, and that is the complete opposite of what's happened here. So one can only begin to wonder at some point if it's simply not just a big leftist power play that's going on around the globe. Yep. It's the only way to change our nations back to our innocent Thomas Kincaid-like landscape of Europe. Is there a Karen here? Liaison is gone, Europe. She left already. Intifada is dodgy, extreme left-wing. True nationalists, I believe Japan should be mostly Japanese, America mostly white, Mexico mostly Mexican. Well, that's not nice, Liaison. Not the Europe. Liaison is a decent person who means well, and she says plenty of things that make lots of sense. No reason to pick on people in the chat. Anyway, yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, yeah. So today was just kind of I did a couple videos for those who may have missed it. I did a prepared video on conflating the Kifnis, in which I talked about the issue of the Kifnis making a political satire of the South African national anthem. And if you want to frighten your pets and scare people, you're welcome to play that video. And towards the end, you'll hear me singing poorly the South African national anthem, making a point about the anthem, what's going on. So yeah, so check that out. Anyway, yeah, so yeah, Europe, you just delete all your messages. There's no need for that. You didn't have to do that. Don't be picking on people, guys. Okay, there's no need for that chat. But anyway, so yeah, check out conflating the Kifnis. And the whole issue there is I'm talking about the mayor of Ekurhuleni Metropolitan near Johannesburg, the area that's responsible for OR Tambo International Airport. The mayor is named Masina, and he called David Scott of the Kifnis a little racist, something that's questionable on its legality and might get the mayor in trouble if there was actually a criminal justice system that cared about that issue across all South Africans. But anyway, the issue there being that what was happening is the conflation of legitimate criticism through political satire with racism, and the intentional effort to call people racist when they're doing things that aren't racist. It is perfectly acceptable to criticize the actions of a public figure like Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. Now, the method you choose to do it is one you should be careful about, and I was a little uncomfortable with the video, even though I found it humorous. It's not something I would have shared, even though I found it humorous. I did enjoy watching it, but I was uncomfortable because I don't like to insult anthems of any country. But I didn't see it as an insult. It was meant as political satire, but I would have been uncomfortable. But nonetheless, it's perfectly his right. It's legitimate. It's free speech. It's protected in South Africa. But what Masina said is not free speech. It's not protected. Calling someone a racist without foundation in South Africa is a crime under crimen injuria. Anyway, so that's why I made the video. It's called Conflating the Kifnis. You're welcome to check it out on my channel. I would say you're welcome to go back and watch the stream of yesterday's launch of the NASA SpaceX Falcon 9 Crew Dragon Demo 2 mission to the International Space Station. We had it live streamed to my channel, but National Geographic has put a copyright block on my video, so you can't watch it. So my apologies for that. And that's a shame because I thought it was a pretty good video. I really had a great chat session with everybody there. We got to watch it live. It was so awe-inspiring. Elon Musk's vision and NASA coming back into the manned spaceflight game from U.S. soil, first time since 2011. But National Geographic claims that I use their content, which I find odd since I was using the public domain NASA stream to show the launch, and I never used National Geographic's channel. Now, perhaps National Geographic, without my knowledge, was the broadcaster that was behind the scenes running the cameras on behalf of NASA, but they failed to disclose that. So that's not my fault. Anyway, but that video is blocked right now, by copyright block. They've got 30 days to respond, but by then I'm sure most people have forgotten about the launch and you won't be able to watch it. So I can't recommend you watch that. I hope that you were able to catch it with us because it was a lot of fun. It was a very inspiring time. Also, I did another video thanking South Africa profusely for providing us with the vision and the person of Elon Musk. Thank you so much for that. He's done some amazing things for the world and for America, generating businesses. SpaceX employs 8,000 well-paid engineers, designers, rocket scientists, astronomers. It's amazing. A company that didn't even exist 18 years ago, 8,000 people with those highly skilled career fields. And also, of course, he has the Tesla plant in California and does some interesting things in that field as well. So thank you for Elon Musk. But, and I implore you, and I've done this a couple of times already, but I'm going to do it once more. Is there any way I can convince you to take Trevor Noah back to South Africa? You're welcome to have him back. We'll pay for his flight. I mean, I'll walk around with a cap. In fact, I'll take this cap. This will be my cap. There you go. I'll take this cap and I'll walk around and ask for donations. We want to send Trevor Noah back to South Africa where he belongs. But I asked, and everybody said we get to keep him. No, thank you. South Africa's worst export is not welcome here. Liaison, you're back. I thought you left, Liaison. Okay, maybe I'm way behind you. Anyway, so yeah, so let me get back here. St. Ledger says, have you seen Big Daddy? Yes, I watched him and I subscribed to his channel just recently, St. Ledger, and I've actually contacted him a couple of times. Many people keep telling me here and on Roman's channel, the Renegade Report, where I appeared, and also on Ronaldo Host program. A lot of these people, and even Joe Emilio, saying, hey, you should have Big Daddy Liberty on your program, or you should go on his program. And I'm willing to do that. I'm happy to do that. But the problem is that I've written to the guy twice, or three times actually, and I've not heard back from him. I'm not going to pester him. If you want it to happen, I ask you guys to contact Big Daddy Liberty during the streams or on his videos, or leave a message saying, "Hey, you should link up with the Colonel. You should go in his program. You should come in your program." I'm happy to do it. Unless somebody is distasteful or I have a serious problem with their conduct, I'm pretty much willing to go on a program and discuss. I've been doing that for a long time on active service. As long as it's a legitimate discussion, I'm happy to do it. So Big Daddy Liberty, I'm happy to go on his program. I'm very happy to have him come on here, but got to establish contact. And I think he's just really, really busy and doesn't check his mail. Or my mail went straight to a spam folder. I don't know, but I'm waiting for him. Yep. So Lizan says segregation is definitely not the answer. Pigmentation is skin deep. Our culture is what separates us from each other. That can be overcome by learning each other, not separating us. There you go, Lizan. And those are sentiments I agree with there. Absolutely. Yep. 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 Absolutely. Oh, I just got your name, Lizan. I've actually looked at it for the first time while I was reading that. It says now and Donese Foncel. So you were Lizan Els, and you must have got married to someone named Foncel. I think I just figured that out. Or did I get it wrong? Anyway, our culture is what's up. Because I always look, it's like really long. I never paid attention. I'm like, man, she's got a long name. Must be just saying something there. Yeah, culture is what separates people, not DNA. If the DNA separated, then you wouldn't be able to mix and breed and procreate with other people. If you're a white person in Canada or Norway, you may not know this, but you can actually knock boots with someone in Thailand and produce offspring. And why is that? Because we're the same species. Just different skin pigmentation, different cultures, different norms, different mores and values. Do those mix well? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But yeah, I'm with you, Lezon. We're in the same boat. I think we're rowing in the same direction, which in South Africa will get us arrested for doing sport unauthorized fashion, just like sitting on a beach. RB says apparently the elderly person assaulted by the young man in the Michigan area. Oh yeah, that. What about that? Why didn't that start national riots? The elderly person being beaten, the mentally challenged person being beaten by a caregiver. And the caregiver was black, wasn't he? And the elderly person was white. There were no riots over that. Because that didn't fit the narrative of the progressives who've torched America now. There are black Americans. Yeah, there are black Americans in there. But you don't see all the black people in this country. The 45 million black people running around acting like jackasses like that. In fact, you see people from the historic civil rights era calling for comment, telling people that you're undermining this cause. And they are. Kifnis is legend. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if he's legend, but I like some of his stuff. Personal preferences. If she was white, we would be able to tell her she's stupid without being persecuted. Like, yeah. Did expose the ANC criminal cabal, especially mental made Zuma. Okay. Fonz, did you see that poor guy that got beaten? Oh, yeah, I did. I saw the one who lost all his teeth. And then I saw the guy who was defending a store with a broadsword, and they rushed him. So he charged at them, and then they beat him. He's nearly dead. Yeah, absolutely. Big Daddy's awesome. Cool. Keep him. You want him? Keep. No, we didn't want him. No, Trevor's jersey, guys. No, take it back, please. As long as it doesn't show up Western Cape. Yeah, Trevor Noah. Perhaps we can send Trevor to Cuba. There you go. Really, seriously, now I'm going to get triggered by Europe Rising. Was about to go on segregation. Oh, relax, Lazon. It's just a chat. Anyway, Chris, yes, my maiden name is Els, and now married to Drian Funds. Oh, okay. I didn't get that, even though I knew. Okay, gotcha. All right, makes a lot more sense now. We're spreading that video around now. It's disgusting. Yeah, it's really sad. JP Rousseau, thanks for coming on. Is that not maybe the problem in South Africa? Too many different cultures, not everyone sees eye to eye. Yeah, well, the problem is when the racist card comes out as the default example or excuse for everything that's happening. That's a real issue here, folks. St. Ledger, if you're frustrated, ride a KTM. Hendo, crazy world, fed up, so-called progressive left-wing cock. Give me two. Sean says you can't sell Trevor Noah back to lockdown instead. We have enough trouble, thank you. By the way, Google the satire he did with the SA anthem, not considered racist, but the content clearly is. Yeah, in fact, on my conflating the Kifnis video, someone wrote a thoughtful comment back and disagreed with me and didn't think that the Kifnis was racist, but also didn't agree that it was satire, and then also said that what Trevor Noah did wasn't racist. I disagreed and I gave an explanation. You can go read that in the comments. If you do, I ask you don't attack the person that posted that because it was an honest, thoughtful, cogent response. I just disagree with the person. You can see where you fall on that. But if you do put comments there, I welcome you to put comments. But I'm asking the people not just attack that person because that's what the person believes and they were willing to share that. So, for instance, in the conflating the Kiffness, I talked about the NFL kneeling incident here in the U.S. and what happened with Colin Kaepernick. And the poster under the video said that they disagreed with me. And then I responded and said, well, thank you, I appreciate that, but you didn't have the full story. In this short video, I only mentioned it. Most of you have no idea what my stance is on kneeling in the NFL. Some of you know because you've been watching my live streams now. You've been very loyal subscribers for the few months that I've been on here doing this. And I've mentioned in the past that I took great offense to it, not as a soldier, not as a veteran, which is what people assume, but as a patriot. If I'd never served in uniform, I would have taken offense about what that was done there. That was intentionally done to insult the memory of those who died. Now, the claim was that wasn't it, but the intent was to insult the country. And we've had 667,000 Americans die in service for this country in uniform to defend this country throughout our history. 667,000. And tens of millions have served in uniform to defend and protect and defend the Constitution of this country. Black Americans served in the millions in our military forces. And for Colin Kaepernick and those clowns to take a knee was deeply insulting from that standpoint. I only mention it in the video because I'm a person that's interested in full disclosure. I'm not going to be a hypocrite and tell you part of the story. I agree with this. It's like I took a lot of flack on Willem Petzer's channel because I was accused of being a Rainbow Nation supporter. I didn't say I was. I didn't say I wasn't. Someone took a comment out of context and inferred meaning from it. My point is that that's the reason that on the video, I wanted to be intellectually honest and mention that I had an issue with the NFL ban. As I said, I had not an issue, but I was uncomfortable with the Kiffness's video. Listen, it's brilliant. It's brilliant political satire. It is funny, but it's not something I would share with people. I wouldn't go, hey, you should check this out. This is funny. Because if they found it and they told me about it, I wouldn't complain about it. I wouldn't say anything bad about them. And I don't say anything bad about Kiffness because that's his constitutional right. I'm just saying that I was uncomfortable with it. So in the interest of full disclosure, I mentioned that. And so the person disagreed with my position on the NFL and said that it was a double standard. And I explained in a very long response, which you're welcome to read, why I think it's not a double standard. But anyway, so please leave comments if you like. My hair is really crazy here. And I missed a bunch of comments, just came in like crazy here. So let me get them. Bite your ankles. I hassle to decide who's the worst. Oh, Trevor Friend. Well, yeah, actually, no, you can keep NDZ. We don't want her. Here you go. Do I look like Radio Raps now? How's that? Radio, he's got to put the duck bill up in the air like that. There you go. Radio Raps. That's what I'm doing now. That guy I can't understand because his humor is not for cons. It's a little too advanced for me. Youngster was not a caregiver. Apparently, he was a COVID patient sent to the old care home for quarantine. Oh, okay. Hendo says, can Elon Musk send Trevor Noah to the moon? Maybe he can send him to Mars. That would be cool. Hey, Scruff of Stuff. Good to see you there. Welcome aboard. Trevor can disappear like Pluto. Well, Pluto was downgraded. Can we downgrade Trevor Noah from the Comedy Central to, I don't know, PBS maybe? Flip a coin. Sean says, I missed the conflating the K. It wasn't a show, it's a video. What you guys have to do is double check if you're subscribed to my channel. Go back and check on the subscription on the channel. Make sure you actually got those notifications set for all notifications because it might not give you a notification. I did 2 videos this morning, one in which I did the conflating the Kiffness. That's about 18 minutes, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. And then a prepared video, which I premiered. By the way, I stayed up till 1:30 for that, to premiere that with you guys. And then I stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning to prepare the next one, to premiere the next one, which was thanking South Africa for Elon Musk and begging you to take Trevor Noah back, which is a shorter one. I support satire and often use it. I would perhaps have been somewhat offended by the song if I had any patriotic feelings. Yeah. Look, Sean, I get that. And that's my thought is I thought some people might be offended by it because the anthem is important to them. My anthem is important to me, and I respect it. Listen, I respect, and that was the point of making the video. I mean, a lot of people have been talking about it, but I was hesitant, not because it's controversial, but because I wanted to ruminate on the subject a little bit longer, and I did. So, like, I sing the South African anthem when I'm at events where the anthem is played. I try the Botswana one, but I'm terrible. I only know a few lines of it, so I only do those lines. But I sing the French anthem. I sing the Canadian anthem with great fervor, the Canadian anthem, because I know the words quite well. And I sing the German national anthem as a sign of respect for our allies and our partners. I took the time to learn those anthems because they're important from my perspective. So when we had military ceremonies, the German anthem was played, the American anthem was played, I would sing both out of respect for our partners. And to me, anthems are important. I mean, look, that doesn't mean it's draconian, it's not sacred, it's not hallowed ground. but I'm just uncomfortable. So watching the video, I didn't take offense, but I could see how others would take offense. And that's why I didn't go, hey, pass it around on WhatsApp and pass it around on Facebook and Instagram. I didn't do that. Others did it. I don't criticize that. It's perfectly fine. That's their constitutional right. Just I was uncomfortable with it. But I felt it was important to make the distinction about the mayor of Ekurhuleni, Messina, calling David Scott a little racist, an effort to diminish him with the term little, and calling him a racist, unfounded basis, which is a crime in South Africa. And the mayor of Ekurhuleni ought to be investigated to find out if he actually committed a crime of crimen injuria against David Scott. Also, the stupidity of a mayor of a city of 3.17 million people picking a social media fight with a guy who's got 44,000 subscribers. Yeah, I know, I only have 2,000, not even. That's not the point. The point is that the Kifnis has 44,900 or so subscribers. The mayor of Ekurhuleni has 139,000 subscribers on Twitter. By comparison, Trevor Noah, who did offend and mock the South African anthem in what he thought was comedic and was mildly entertaining, but I thought was a bit pedantic, has 2,280,000 subscribers to his YouTube channel. David Scott, 45,000. Trevor Noah, 2.3 million. It's okay for Trevor Noah to say something. Now, that's important because Messina, in the conversation with Kifnis when he called him up, which was quite entertaining, by the way, he said it doesn't matter if the person's black, pink, yellow, it's still wrong. Really? Where were you when Trevor Noah did the exact same thing? By the way, where are you at Messina whenever the EFF takes their bums and sits down during Bafana Bafana games or Springbok games? Not that I see many of the Springbok games, but whenever the national anthem is played and the English and Afrikaans stanzas, the fourth and fifth stanzas, or third and fourth stanzas of the South African anthem come up, where are you at then? Is that not racist when they sit down during the anthem? Of course. It's not. It's political protest. It's wrong in my view, but it's political protest. Anyway, it's not racist. The song represents the 5 largest and most widely spoken languages in South Africa, which cover all races in the country: black, white, Asians, because people from all those races speak all those languages. So anyway, enough of that nonsense. We'll sponsor PP. Whoa, missed that. Okay. We will sponsor all PP for Trevor Noah to go to the moon. Thank you, PPE distributors. That's very kind of you. Jay Peruso, a bit off topic. How many rugby jerseys have you got? I miss watching rugby so much. I'm a Bull supporter. Well, JP, this question has come up several times, and I did an estimate. I think I have somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 rugby jerseys of one sort or another. My biggest collection would be, of course, Eagles jerseys, but my largest is Springboks. I have Springboks, Eagles. I have Welsh. I don't have France or Fiji or Samoa, even though Fiji has a cool jersey. And I will not have an All Blacks jersey. But I've got Ireland. I've got them from all over. I don't have an England one. But yeah, I have lots of rugby jerseys. I have Sevens jerseys, Blitzboks jerseys. I have the Madiba, the special birthday edition Blitzboks jersey. Hard to come by. I got one of those. That was a limited edition. Yeah, I have a lot of rugby jerseys. I'm a huge rugby fan. I have been since 1982 when I was a freshman at university. But really only got seriously into rugby when I was actually able to watch it by living in Africa, courtesy of DSTV and Supersport, and then actually going to games in Africa. And then I started a series of World Cups. So for those who don't know, I've been to the following World Cups: 2011 in New Zealand, 2015 in England, 2017 in Northern Ireland for the women. Oh, sorry, I missed one. 2011 in New Zealand, 2014 in Paris for the Women's World Cup, which England won, 2015 in England for the men, 2017 in Northern Ireland for the women, because they moved it back a year so that there would be 2 years the women, 2 years the men, so every 2 years. So 2017, 2018 in San Francisco for the Sevens World Cup, which is the first time they held it for several years because it was reintroduced to the Olympics, rugby, and 2019 in Japan. So that's 6 Rugby World Cups in 8 years. Pretty cool, huh? The BBC did an article about me for anyone that's curious, not just showing off, but I think it's a pretty good article, did a good job. And I didn't realize how many games I've been to until the guy interviewed me. So when I was in Japan, I was in Yokohama, which is where this scarf is from. It's the Springboks All Blacks. Very disappointing outcome. I was at that game, and actually most of the game was played right in front of me. I was behind the try line up in the second level in Yokohama for that game, and I was very disappointed in the game because the All Blacks won that game. But anyway, yeah, so I was in Yokohama at the train station a couple days later after the Ireland-Scotland game, which I also attended, and I ran into a bunch of BBC journalists. And for those who've heard the story before, my apologies, but I just want to share it very quickly so people know about it. What happened was I saw the camera sitting along the thing, and there's only so many white guys hanging around because it's mostly Japanese there. And I started chatting with him. I said, "Hey, you guys with the media?" And they go, "Yeah, yeah, we're with the BBC." I said, "BBC? You mean state-run media?" And the guy goes, "Oh, you don't like us, eh?" I said, "Well, first off, you don't sound English. We're not English." I said, "Where are you from?" "We're from Ireland." I said, "Ireland? Northern Ireland." I said, "Oh, Northern Ireland. Okay." And then he goes, "Oh, you like us now?" I said, "Yeah, I love you now." Anyway, so they said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm here for the World Cup. I'm going to 18 games in 30 days." Like, what? 18 games? And they told me they were there to cover the Irish games. And so the guy says, "I should do a story about you." I said, "Well, yeah, sure. But I got to catch a train. Yeah, it looks like you guys do too." He goes, I said, "Tell you what, I give my business card." So I gave my business card because we never linked up. We were going to check our schedules. They went to all the Ireland games, so they didn't go to games where I was at. So what happened was he interviewed me over Skype like 3 times after that. They wrote an article. If you're curious at all about it, what you do is go to Google, type um, BBC Rugby Wyatt, and the article come up. It's by Mike Moran, I think his name is. It's a really cool article. I really enjoyed it. It's a good picture of me at the France, is it France and Tonga or someone like that? One of the games. Really beautiful stadium that I went to down in the southern part. Kumamoto is where that stadium was, I think. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, this one's from Japan. I bought this at Toyota City, and I told that story at the beginning of the stream. So yeah, I've got probably about 75 rugby jerseys and growing. I have Major League Rugby jerseys from Rugby United New York and also from the Utah Warriors. When the league first started a couple years ago, there was no East Coast franchise, so I picked Utah because I have an affinity for Utah and I like the logo and supported them, but they were terrible. So when Rugby United New York came in, that's a team within a reasonable distance I could travel to. I became a fan of that. Wound up becoming familiar with the owner, James Kennedy, and have been in touch with him. And they've done quite well. So Ben Foden plays for them. Cathal Marsh plays for them. Bastereau from France played for them this past season. Unfortunately, the season was suspended after 5 games. I too am missing rugby in a major way. But in June, in New Zealand, the Super Rugby franchise and the 5 franchises there will start playing each other in a bizarre, abbreviated Super Rugby season for New Zealand only. And so we'll be able to watch that on TV at least. So there will be some rugby coming back. Um, and you're a Bull supporter. That's cool. I'm not a Bull supporter. I love Loftus, though, because I love Pretoria. Um, the Bulls, I think, under Jake White, are in good shape. They're going to be coming back, and they'll restore the glory there, which makes me a little bit nervous because I'm a Western Province Stormers fan, so we'll see. Um, YouTube's messing around with notifications. They are. Just Fiction notifications. Oh, notice all wasn't checked. Yeah, you got to check all, guys. Um, Bruce Wayne. Oh, hey, it's Batman. Can you have a friend of mine on? He wants to talk to you and do a stream tonight. Um, he wants to do a stream on my channel, or he wants me to go on his channel. Bruce, can you explain what you're talking about? St. Ledger, Trevor Noah, try George Carlin. George Carlin's dead, man. I think you're making a point there, St. Ledger. Harley, hard to be patriotic in South Africa. Government has always been an embarrassment. Yeah, it certainly has been of late, that's for sure. Um, whoa, I really jumped ahead here. So sorry, guys. This is very touchy on this laptop when I do the stream. The chat. How do we contact you in a? How do we do? How do we contact you to do a stream? Oh, Bruce, what you do is go to the About tab, open up another tab on my channel, and go to About. And under About, you will see the thing that's described to channel. So the hat looks weird on me though. I love the hat, but it makes me look like I have a super large head, you know? Anyway, yeah, I'm feeling awkward with that thing on my head. Let's go back to this one, or better to switch to this third hat I've got sitting here from the 2015 Rugby World Cup. That might work well. There we go. Anyway, so if you go to the About tab, slide over to the right, click on the About tab in a different tab, and then you'll have a video saying, "Welcome to my channel." You might want to mute that because I think it plays automatically. It's just a minute video, but it'll disrupt what you're hearing. Go below the description of the channel. Below that, there's a for business purposes access to my email. You click on that, a little window will pop up. You have to click it, wait till it stops, and then push, and it will reveal my email address. You can write to me there, and I'll check my email after I finish the stream and then find out exactly what you're trying to do, or if you want me to appear on another channel, or you guys want me to do another stream. But yeah, I need to know who it is. You know, can't just do things. So I'm happy to consider things though. Gareth says, really have to go now. Still get up at 5 instead of 4 during lockdown. Have a good day, Chris. Good night. All right, thanks a lot, Gareth. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Glad you were able to join us. Bruce Wayne, if you don't realize it now, but whites will be given an unfair hand until we are erased if we don't stand up for what is considered racist. You must stand up for what's considered racist when it's not racist. Was it racist to fend off the Ottoman Empire? It depends on who was doing it and what their purpose was. It's kind of an open-ended question, so we'd have to talk about that. What about when they're inside your nation? Okay, these are big questions. I'll reach out to Big Daddy. Sean says to contact you tomorrow. Would love to see a conversation between the two of you. Yeah, that would be cool. And years ago, U.S. Eagles had a South African coach and had South Africans playing for them in the 1990s. Yeah, that's true. Our sevens team had Donald Stanford, who played for it. He was a top broadcaster in rugby. He's based in Los Angeles here in the U.S. He's a friend of mine. Yeah, in fact, that friendship paid off because at the Rugby World Cup, the Italy and was it Italy? No, it wasn't Italy. It was South Africa Canada game. I got to meet Joel Stransky because he was on the broadcast team with Joel Stransky. We had agreed to meet a couple games prior to that, and it didn't work out. One game, Joel Stransky after the broadcast. Another game, we were actually in the wrong cities. I thought I was where he was at. He thought he was where I was at, and we were mistaken. So we finally met up. And the last time that our synced, and that was in Kobe for the Springboks against Canada when Cobus Reinach got that God, guys, it was awesome. Right in front of me, too. I was sitting at that end of the stadium. That's where all the tries were scored. It was amazing. Anyway, yeah, so I got to meet Joel Stransky. Unfortunately, people don't really know who Donald Stanford is for the most part, even though they might recognize his voice on the television. So when he came out, he's like, "Hey, bud, how's it going?" We're like hanging around. A couple people knew him from his past, but people hanging around after the game. And then Joel Stransky came out a few minutes later to see me, and like crowds just flocked around. So Dallin had to drag him away from the crowds, after being considered people to introduce him to me. And Joel Stransky said he was really impressed that I've been a Springboks fan since 1984. He couldn't believe it. And I said, "Well, hey, I have been, man." But yeah, we've had a lot of South Africans play for the U.S. national team. And we had, we have South Africa now. We have Gary Gold. We had John Mitchell before that. Gary Gold's been the best thing that ever happened to USA men's rugby. So this kind of stuff, good stuff. Need to get it fixed so we can get the little Gaulish village. Sharks, come on. I have a Sharks jersey. You asking me, St. Ledger, about a Sharks jersey? I do have a Sharks jersey. I have a little shark, stuffed animal. I've worn that for my videos before. I rotate my rugby jersey. That's kind of my trademark, folks, if you haven't picked up on that. My streams include a rugby scarf or rugby scarves, my map of Africa, which is going to change. I'm going to put some other stuff up here as I modify my pseudo studio and turn into an actual studio here. And I wear a rugby jersey almost all the time. There are exceptions, but that's the norm for me. I do have a Sharks jersey. I will wear a Sharks jersey. Bruce says, "What do you care about saving our nation? If you do, have me on your stream. Sports ball is a distraction. I used to play sports all the time. I can't stand them." Well, we can talk, Bruce. Send me a note on the email address that I told you how to find, and we can chat. No joke. The Super Bowl is trans commercials. I guess rugby is okay though. Don't know about those commercials. I don't watch the Super Bowl when the Patriots are playing because they're cheaters, and I don't like to watch cheaters. JP Russo, the IRB president, made a suggestion no rugby should be played until there's a vaccine. Are you saying that Sir Bill Beaumont said that? I didn't hear that. Um, there may never be a vaccine, so that's brain dead. And if that's true, he didn't deserve re-election, which he recently got. Fortunately, he beat out Agustin Pinchot of Argentina, the former Puma, who wanted that position. And he talks about reforming rugby, but wants to reform it into an even more exclusive all boys, old boys club, so that only the Northern Hemisphere teams and the top four teams from the Southern Hemisphere ever get to play against each other. Yes, I know they had a thing where two teams could rotate in, but two teams from the rest of the world, that's not fair. Part of the big problem with rugby is that the only time that teams from many national unions ever play the big countries, the traditional rugby nations, is in the World Cup. So no wonder you see Namibia getting beat 87-3 by the Springboks, because the only time they ever play them is the World Cup. That's why. That's not acceptable. Rising rugby nations like Japan, which has proven itself, won its pool, beat South Africa in 2015, won its pool in Japan, 4 games, beat Scotland and Ireland impressively. Rising rugby nations like Japan, the USA, which has come a long way in the last decade, other countries, Germany, which is starting to rise, they're very far down, but they're coming up, Hong Kong even, countries deserve a chance to compete against the top tier teams periodically. Otherwise, they'll never improve. That's the key. And World Rugby needs to fix that, which has a big difference of opinion between me and the Argentinian fellow. That Indian dude, I like that. The coronavirus infection rate and deaths seem to be increasing for South Africa. What's the deal? Well, Indian dude, there's a reason for that. Testing is incomplete. They don't really have a handle on how widespread the virus is. You're going to have people go back standing in line at package stores tomorrow to buy liquor because they're dying for a fix. and standing in line violating social distancing. So it's going to spread tomorrow. You're going to have kids go back to school eventually. We don't know when. They're obsessed with cleaning the schools, but after 60 days, what virus is viable and left alive on any surface? Relax and get over that and worry about proper procedures and hygiene in the school once the kids come back. So people are going back to work. You're going to see that people are going to violate social distancing. Even here in the U.S., where you have lockdowns, people are violating the lockdowns left and right. So you will see increase in cases. The key is to protect the vulnerable. Those with underlying conditions are the ones who need to be protected. But that is not the approach any government around the world, except for Taiwan and Sweden and a couple other countries, have taken. Look at Taiwan. I haven't checked the data now, but last week they had 443 cases with 7 fatalities, a country of 24 million people. By comparison, Iceland had 1,800 cases with 21 fatalities, a country of 360 or 435,000 people, something like that, compared to 24 million. And I make the comparison because it's an advanced, developed, Western, island-based nation, Iceland, and so is Thailand. Not Thailand, excuse me, Taiwan and Iceland. I also compared another country that was similar to that and showed that that the Taiwanese have the right answer, but they've been neglected. That's another video I did. I did a video about the World Health Organization's World Health Assembly and how Taiwan was excluded from it yet again, despite the fact that they have best practices and lessons learned, which are in stark contrast to most of the countries around the world with their overreaction to COVID-19. So you're going to see more cases in South Africa. What you have to do is, as cases rise, you have to protect and isolate those who are most vulnerable. If you have an underlying condition that makes you vulnerable with a compromised immune system, then you need to do something about that for yourself. All right. Fiji don't get enough chances. Yeah, well, the island nations don't get enough chances, but that's a whole other whole story. I mean, a country of 35,000 people. How much help do they want in rugby? Developing countries, they should have done targeted lockdowns. Well, they should have done it in developed countries too, Indian dude. All right, you guys, some nasty stuff going on in the chat here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's been 2 hours. Still got quite a few viewers here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to terminate it for tonight, and I want to thank you all. It's almost midnight in South Africa, and it is nearly 6 p.m. here in the East Coast. I may do a straight voltage tomorrow. I'll decide what the deal is, but I want to thank you all for tuning in. You can go back to this video. There shouldn't be any copyright strikes on this one, and post comments if you'd like. Please feel free to watch my other videos. You can go through the playlist or scroll down the channel, and you'll see different playlists to find different topics. Hopefully you'll find that interesting. If you do want to get in touch with me, I've explained how to reach out to me via email, and we can have a conversation. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been my pleasure. This is Chris with Indaba Africa. Have a blessed and wonderful Monday. If you're in Africa, it's already Monday now, or it will be Monday in just a moment for many in Africa. And for those here in the East Coast of the U.S., enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. Out on the West Coast and Alaska and Hawaii, enjoy the rest of your day, ladies. Oh, email before you go. I'm not going to give it over the broadcast. I've explained how to get the email because it gets captured by bots and then you get inundated with fraudulent messages. So I'm not going to do that. It's available, publicly available. I've told you how to go get to it. Please go to the channel. If I'm so wrong, we'll see. What's BS? Anyway, yeah, go. I've explained how to get it. It's on the About tab. Click on it. You can find my email address, and I will answer those emails. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate you being here. You guys have a pleasant evening, and hang in there. There are people who are trying to expose what's happening in South Africa, and I'm certainly hoping to be one of those folks to let people know what's happening there. The country is for everyone in it, not simply for a select group of people who want to do things their own way and ignore everyone else in the country. It is a democracy, at least on paper. Let's make it be a democracy in practice. Here in the U.S., it's the same thing. We have a democracy. We've had it for a long time. We have the world's premier democracy, representative government. Let's make our government represent us and not rule us like dictators and totalitarians on high. Ladies and gentlemen, have a pleasant evening. This has been Chris. I'm going to close now with a video from Talon Bezuidenhout. Be sure to check out his Impulse graphics.